Before we do, I just want to go over, for any of you that were not here yesterday, go over a little bit on the voting devices, AKA clickers, to make sure that everyone is comfortable using them. There are some thoughts that if I vote by mistake and say yes and I meant to say no, that I'm stuck. You're not stuck. The system is smart enough to record the last vote you place before the voting is closed, okay? And you say, well, I can vote 50 times. It only accepts the last one, okay? Any questions on electronics and voting?
Look at you going all healthy today.
Hearing none, let's begin. We left off with our next article being Article 27, and it's the DPW Highway Assabet Hill Drainage and Roadway. Julianne Hirsch?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $500,000 for the first phase of bidding and construction services for the Assabet Hill Drainage and Roadway Improvement Project, including drainage system repairs and the replacement of roadways, sidewalks, curbing, and all incidental and related expenses to be transferred from free cash to be available for expenditure starting in FY 2026.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Our DPW Director will make the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Scott Charpentier, Public Works Director. We're here to discuss Article 27 for the Assabet Hill Drainage and Roadway Improvements. This is the second time I've been before you regarding this project. Last year, $100,000 from free cash was approved to begin the design phase services and get us through to construction document preparation. This request is going to fund the first phase of repairs to the drainage in the Assabet Hill neighborhood. Just a quick summary, the Assabet Hill neighborhood drainage was built relatively poorly. There's a lot of settlement associated with the drain pipes, broken drain pipes, and failed corbels on the structures. The result has been sinkholes in the roadways, undulations of the sidewalks, and failed curbing. This would be the first of two, possibly three construction phases, depending on what future funding allows. So the sidewalks and the pavement conditions are poor. It's relatively unsafe to traverse the sidewalks on skateboards and roller skates and things like that. We'll start the work this year. Funding is approved at the downhill end. Anytime you do drainage improvements, you always start downhill and work your way up. How far the $500,000 will go, we won't know until we begin construction. We do have a video of all of the failures in the pipes, but as you dig holes and find other failures, the dollars can get soaked up relatively quickly. The expectation is that the next fiscal year, FY28, I'll be back before you for the final phase of construction funding, after which the entire neighborhood can be repaved with new sidewalks and curbing. The video inspections were done in 2019, found several locations of cracked drainage pipe, failed bells, the receiving end of drainage pipes. The sidewalks are non-compliant, the wheelchair ramps are non-compliant. This project has been on the radar since 2019. It keeps on getting pushed back due to other more urgent needs, like some recent culvert failures we had that I discussed previously, and you'll probably hear a little more about in a few minutes. So again, this is for the Assabet Hill Phase 1 of construction for drainage and roadway repairs.
Thank you. May I hear from the Select Board on Article 27?
Yes, the Select Board recommends unanimously approval of Article 27.
And may I hear from Appropriations on Article 27?
The Appropriations Committee voted in the majority with one abstention to recommend approval of Article 27.
And may I hear from Financial Planning on Article 27?
Mr. Moderator, by unanimous vote, the Financial Planning Committee recommends approval of Article 27.
Thank you. Are there any questions or concerns on Article 27?
Good evening. Danielle Williams, 19 Assabet Hill Circle. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and to the town department heads, boards, and committees for prioritizing this project. As Scott mentioned, this has been on the docket for quite some time. And so I'm really excited to see it here in front of the town to be voted on. It's been a long time coming. Just some facts for the audience here. The development was built in the 90s. It wasn't built to the ideal standards. Unfortunately, there's no recourse to that. It's been too long. So the question of going back to whoever built it, that's not on the table. In this development, there are 38 single-family homes that have 49 school-age children. So that's high school and below. 80% of those kids are in elementary school to the newborn stages. So a very young generation. We do have people there that are older as well. But these 38 homes, we contributed about close to $500,000 in tax revenue for the town through our property tax. In addition, at the beginning of the development, there is Monument Place, which is a multifamily unit, and at the other end is two-family dwellings as well. So there's an additional amount of kids that come with that I just don't have the numbers on. I personally have lived in the development for 17 years and been documenting this for the past 8 years, and it is horrific. I've spoken to many people and had conversations. I know Scott very well about this. Town officials, both past and present. I have talked to our state representatives. I've done everything I can. As Scott mentioned, in 2019, so 7 years ago, there was a third party that looked at this and looked at portions of the drainage system. And because of the sinkholes, these are sinkholes, these aren't potholes, they're sinkholes. It's very different. And they looked at the condition of the drainage system. There was, at that time, 1,200 linear feet of pipe that was in poor condition or in need of immediate attention. When you look at those definitions in that report, that means that it was either failing or failed. There was another 623 that were in fair condition that said it would fail within 10 years. Keep in mind, this was 7 years ago. 4 years later, the town hired Woodward and Curran to do a survey. Assabet Hill was noted at the top of that list in the 2003 report as the worst roads in the town. Nothing has been done but patch it jobs. We can't do that with sinkholes. There are families here. We've had numerous injuries of children and adults walking in this neighborhood. It's simply not safe for kids to ride their bikes or scooters.
You have 10 more seconds.
I have 10 more seconds. At the end of the day, we can't afford to push this project out. It's going to cost too much, and I'm really afraid about what this means for families, down the road. So please vote yes.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Fran Bactran, 76 Cedar Hill Road. Just real quickly, I'm just curious, are we going to be borrowing and/or raising this through taxation? I'm just wondering, the article itself doesn't specifically say how the money is going to be, how it's going to be funded.
It's free cash.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll yield back my time if she wants to step through.
Any more questions? If not, this is what we're voting on for Article 27. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow the sum of $500,000 for the first phase of bidding and construction services for the Assabet Hill Drainage and Roadway Improvement Project, including all incidental and related expenses, or take any other action relative thereto. And the voting has been opened. It is a simple majority. Okay, the voting is slowed. We will close the voting in 3, 2, 1. It is now closed. Article 27 passes by the required majority vote. Article 28, road improvements and maintenance.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $326,000 for roadway improvements, including all incidental and related expenses, to be transferred from free cash to be available for expenditure starting in FY 2026.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Presentation by our DPW Director.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So this article is one we see year over year under the capital plan. It funds a portion of the roadway improvements for calendar year 2027. Our pavement management program shows that we need $1.1 million annually to maintain our roadway condition, which is currently a 77, pavement condition index, PCI. That PCI value is pretty much like a grade in school. So we're a 77, 76, we're a solid C student. We want to maintain that level. That's our goal. Recently, the governor approved a $1.2 billion transportation bond bill that includes $300 million per year for Chapter 90. In the past, it's always been $200 million. We've been petitioning the legislators to increase that by $100 million, and they finally did. And it's a predictable one because it's for 4 years, which is beneficial. In the past, we've achieved that $1.1 million with $500,000 of Chapter 90, which is now increased to $750,000. $300,000 at the capital plan, which is what I'm here talking to you now about, and then $300,000 in the operating budget. Well, because of the fiscal constraints we had this year developing the operating budget and the governor approving additional Chapter 90 money, we were able to reduce the paving funds in the operating budget by $247,000, and while maintaining still the $1.1 million we need for our pavement improvements. The details of the 27 paving program will be developed over the wintertime through a capital improvement analysis. We take a lot of pieces of information into consideration when we do that. Regionality, we want to make sure we touch all different corners of the town, but we don't want to overburden the contractor or the budget with too much mobilization. We try to utilize multiple types of roadway treatments, ranging from a full reclamation pavement all the way up to a simple crack seal. And our goal is to touch approximately 10% of the roads every year. So we have 81 miles of road, centerline miles, so we try to touch approximately 8 miles every year. And we've been able to achieve that over the past few years with the support that we get here from this, and as well as from the state. So again, we're seeking funding to continue our pavement management program.
Thank you. May I hear from the Select Board on Article 28, please?
Yes, the Select Board recommends unanimously approval of Article 28.
Thank you. And may I hear from Appropriations on Article 28?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, the Appropriations Committee unanimously recommends approval of Article 28.
And the Financial Planning for Article 28.
Mr. Moderator, by a unanimous vote, the Financial Planning Committee recommends approval of Article 28.
Okay. This requires a simple majority vote, and this is what we're voting on. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow the sum of $326,000 for roadway improvements, including all incidental and related expenses, or take any other action thereto. And the voting is open. The voting has slowed, so we will close the voting in 3, 2, 1. It is closed. Article 28 passes by the required majority vote. Article 29, please. Drainage Sidewalk Improvement Program.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $315,000 for the purpose of funding drainage and sidewalk improvements, including all incidental and related expenses, to be transferred from free cash to be available for expenditure starting in FY 2026.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. And once again, presentation by our DPW Director.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So this is another repeating or reoccurring capital request we have. It's for drainage and sidewalk improvements. We have over 75 culverts around town. We have 290 drainage outfalls. There are over 200 wheelchair ramps in town and 32 miles of sidewalks. Our sidewalk our sidewalk condition index, very similar to the PCI, is a 72, so we're more like a C- student when it comes to our sidewalks. There has not been a dedicated operating budget line item for drainage or sidewalk improvements. There's just repairs. We carry $7,500 a year for drainage repairs. That's obviously not going to cover culverts, and there is no funding allocated towards sidewalks. That would come out of the general paving budget. In the past, we've had emergency culvert repairs that these funds have been used for. Most recently, Howard Street and Church Street culverts were relined utilizing these funds. The expectation with these funds is that we can move forward with some sidewalk work this coming year. That's contingent upon an emergency culvert failure not happening, knock on wood. The current fiscal year's appropriation for sidewalks includes design of a handful of sidewalks around town as well that were on the Complete Streets prioritization list. So that'll get those queued up for construction funds in the future in the event they do become available. We are aware of one culvert that is in poor condition that may warrant lining after an inspection this winter, and that's the Brigham Street culvert by the golf course. It's a double-barrel culvert that conveys the Assabet River. It's a perfect candidate for slip lining. You can divert. There's two pipes. You can divert the river to one, line it, then flip-flop it, and it's a pretty simple construction process. And before culvert failure, it's a good approach. So again, I'm requesting funds for a culvert and a drainage and sidewalk improvements.
Thank you. May I hear from the Select Board on Article 29, please?
Yes, the Select Board unanimously recommends approval of Article 28.
And may I hear from Appropriations?
29. Sorry.
Likewise, the Appropriation Committee unanimously recommended approval of Article 29.
And the Financial Planning Committee?
Financial Planning also, by a unanimous vote, recommends approval of Article 29.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Hearing no questions, this is what we're voting on. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow the sum of $315,000 for the purpose of funding drainage and sidewalk improvements, including repair, replacement, and maintenance of culverts, drainage outfalls, and sidewalks throughout the town, or take any other action relative thereto. The voting is open. Okay, the voting has slowed. We will shut the voting down in 3, 2, 1, and the voting is closed. Article 29 passes by the required majority vote. Article 30, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $178,300 for the purpose of funding the design phase of the Hudson Street Bridge repair, including all incidental and related expenses to be transferred from free cash to be available for expenditure starting in fiscal year 2026.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Mr. DPW.
Yes, Mr. Moderator. This is a request for engineering funding for the Hudson Street Bridge. This is directly adjacent to number 56 Hudson Street. That's a large red industrial building just downtown side of River Street. As you can see, the culvert is a stone arch culvert dating back over 100 years. The state started inspecting municipally owned bridges about a half a dozen years ago. They inspect them every other year. They provide us with a report on those bridge conditions. This bridge was found to have structural deficiencies. The photograph on the right depicts the underside of the sidewalk. That sidewalk's closed. When you drive by it, you'll see the orange Jersey barriers on it. Obviously, nobody would want to walk on the sidewalk. But beyond that, there are structural issues with the bridge. You probably can't see it, but you might see the little white callouts on the picture to the left. One of them is a large void in the bridge back wall. The other one is a cracked foundation stone. This is a stone arch. The most important stone, obviously, is the keystone, but secondary to that are the buttress stones, and that's one of the buttress stones. During the inspection, that picture is not included here, there was a voids found underneath within the bridge on the breast walls where the water line flows. The inspectors used like a ski pole, the cross-country walking poles, and they were able to put it more than halfway into the void. So we have structural concerns with the bridge. We want to get ahead of it before the Mass DOT thinks that it needs to be closed like they did Whitney Street. One of the struggles with this bridge is it's so old, we have no engineering documentation on it. We don't know what the slab is made out of underneath the pavement and above the arch. Is there a slab? Is it a stone slab? We need to do some destructive investigative analysis into the structure first. There is no hydraulic or hydrologic analysis associated with this bridge. Bridges nowadays have H&H and scour analysis. None of that has been done here. So there's quite a bit of early engineering that needs to be completed. In the event this is funded, the goal and objective is to seek grant funding for the final design phase through the state. If that is awarded, we could then pursue construction funding through the state. Both of those grant programs are run through the same entity, Mass DOT, and they do require local matches. They both require a local match. So I would be before you again, likely 2 more times, hopefully, if this project moves forward. So again, I'm requesting funding for the Hudson Street Bridge for engineering and investigative services.
Thank you. Are there any questions on Article 30?
Give Chase 6 legal aid.
Excuse
Scott,
me,
is that,
I jumped the gun a little bit. Can I get the recommendations from the boards first?
Sure.
Yes,
Okay.
the Select Board unanimously recommends approval of Article 30.
And appropriations, please.
Appropriations Committee likewise unanimously recommend approval of Article 30.
And financial planning.
Mr. Moderator, by a majority vote, the Financial Planning Committee recommends approval of Article 30.
Thank you. Mr. Chase, thank you for your patience. Please.
Scott, is there, are you intended to replace or repair it as is, given the historic importance?
The goal and objective would be to repair it. There are 2 directions to go with bridge projects like this. A municipality can just hand it off to the state and say, go do it, and we end up paying our match based on what their design result is. Their design results are generally very costly. They need to be compliant with Mass Chapter 85 design standards, which is nothing that this body wants to have paid for.
Have you or any of the officials contacted the Mass Historic Commission to see if they have any interests or requirements or anything like that?
I reached out to Mass DOT in hopes that we could get a grant award for this early investigative phase. We were not awarded that, and they indicated that we should come back for the final design for a grant. Their preference is to fund final designs and not investigative phases.
So is the design then going to take the shape, use the existing structure, stones in place, or different?
My expectation, well, yes, it'll leave the facades the way it is. My goal as an engineer is to construct a new slab with grade beams grout the voids in the walls, chink the facades as need be in front of the grout, and armor the channel if the H&H warrants it, so it doesn't get undermined by large storm events and high velocities. That way, when you drive by it, it looks the same. When you swim by it, not that anybody swims there, but if you went fishing there, it would look the same. Maybe Gib swims there. You're welcome.
Yes, please.
Hi, Carter Brannon, 22 Sherland Drive. Just a question, because you mentioned how there's no engineering documents for the bridge currently. When this investigation is completed, will there be documents that would be sufficient if there are repairs 20, 30 years from now later?
Yes, there'll be as-built when the construction is done. There'll be construction documents associated with the materials and details of the work. There'll also be investigative results of the existing stones, concrete, soils, and hydraulic and hydrologic analysis. So it'll be a big old pile of electronic paper, but there'll be paper.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, Carter.
Yes.
Frank Caprio, Overlock Drive. Was wondering how long would the investigation and evaluation take?
I'd like to get it complete by the winter. We want to get into the culvert in the dry season. So, July, August, September, do our investigative work. And then, the demolition component over the summer when traffic is a little bit lower. And then the engineering analysis could begin in the spring and hopefully terminate in the fall, and we can seek some more grant funding.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions, concerns on Article 30? Hearing none, this is what we're voting on. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow the sum of $178,300 for the purpose of funding the design phase of Hudson Street Bridge repair, including all incidental and related expenses, or take any other action relative thereto. The voting is open. Okay, the voting has slowed. We will close the voting in 3, 2, 1, and voting is closed. Article 30 passes by the required majority vote. Article 31, sewer pipe rehabilitation.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate the total sum of $380,000 for sewer pipe rehabilitation, including all incidental and related expenses to be available for expenditure under the direction of the Department of Public Works Sewer Division starting in fiscal year 2026, and to fund said appropriation by transferring the sum of $134,473 from funds borrowed from the Sewer Design and Construction Capital Project approved by Article 24 on April 2007 Annual Town Meeting. Now surplus pursuant to MGL Chapter 44, Section 20, transferring the sum of $9,766 from the Sewer Premium Receipts Reserved Fund and the sum of $235,761 from the Sewer Enterprise Fund free cash.
Second. Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. Yes, please.
Here we go. All right, so we have Articles 31 and 32 in front of you. I'll discuss them together. They're very similar. It's just pipes carrying different types of liquid. So very different types of liquid. So these pipes serve the Forbes Road Industrial Development up off of Whitney Street. That development was built in the late 80s, 88, I believe it was. There's a sewer pump station at the end of Forbes Road, and there's a water main at the end of Forbes Road. They both go through the woods, through a low-lying area adjacent to the 290 Cloverleaf, and then come up the hill at the Cloverleaf and tie into municipal mains, a water main and a sewer main, which is Gravity, on Solomon Pond Road. So it's a pressurized sewer pipe and a pressurized water pipe running through the low-lying area adjacent to 290. Mass DOT is not shy about putting salt down on their roads, especially their clover leaves. So salt in soil, when it's moist, result in a very corrosive environment for pipes. These pipes are both from the same era, the 80s. They're cast iron pipes. They're both suffering from the same deterioration. When pipes sit in corrosive soils for long periods of time like this, they end up going through a process, a chemical process, which changes the metal to become very similar to graphite. It's referred to as graphitization. The pipe is very brittle. We had a pipe failure last year. One of the challenges in this area, well, two of the challenges, one, the neighborhood, the industrial development is completely isolated. They can have a redundancy for water. There is no redundancy for sewer. In the event there was a sewer pipe failure, the industrial area would be closed until the repair could be made. One of the other challenges is the low-lying area. It's not the easiest soils to work in. We've done some initial investigation into what possible trenchless alternatives we have. And our engineers and myself believe that a cured-in-place pipe alternative is viable. Similar to what we did on the culverts, except instead of short and big, they're small and long. So instead of a tube sock in a big pipe, it's more like a garden hose in a smaller pipe. But it's a cost-effective way to do things. You need launching and receiving pits, but you do not have to do an open-digged trench. We expect to bid these out together. It's the same procedure on both pipes, the water pipe and then the sewer pipe. Same contractor, same location, same site. It'll save resources on mobilization. Both these articles are supported 100% by the enterprise funds, Water Enterprise Fund and Sewer Enterprise Fund, so there is no tax subsidy associated with them at all. And both projects have been built into our rate model, so they are expected as part of our upcoming maintenance and repairs. So again, we're requesting in this article, which one is this? 31. One of the two. Is it the sewer?
Yes. Sewer.
Sewer, yes, okay. All right, so in this one, we're asking $380,000 to line the sewer pipe. Thank you.
Thank you. May I hear from the Select Board on Article 31, please?
The Select Board unanimously recommends approval of Article 31.
And Appropriations.
Appropriations was unanimous in the recommendation for this article.
Financial Planning.
Financial Planning Committee, by a unanimous vote, recommends approval of Article 31.
And the Water and Sewer Commission? Is there someone that can speak on that? Yes.
Good evening. John Meter, Cedar Hill Road, Chairman of the Water and Sewer Commission. The Commission fully supports this article and respectfully requests the town meeting approval of the articles. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions on Article 31? Hearing no questions, this is what we're voting on. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds or borrow the sum of $380,000 for sewer pipe rehabilitation, including all incidental and related expenses, or take any other action relative thereto. The voting is open. Okay, the voting has slowed. We will close the voting in 3, 2, 1. It is closed. Article 31 passes by the required majority vote. Article 32, water pipe rehabilitation.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate the total sum of $400,000 for the water pipe rehabilitation, including all incidental and related expenses to be expended under the direction of the Department of Public Works Water Division, and to fund said appropriation by transferring the sum of $66,350 from funds borrowed for the Brigham Street Well Capital Project approved by Article 22 of April 2009 Annual Town Meeting. now surplus pursuant to MGL Chapter 44, Section 20, transferring the sum of $162,572 from the funds borrowed for the Lyman Street Well capital project approved by Article 29 of April 2012 annual town meeting. Now surplus pursuant to MGL Chapter 44, Section 20, transferring the sum from $7,280 from the Water Premium Receipts Reserve Fund and to authorize the treasurer with the approval of the select board to borrow the sum of $162,798 pursuant to the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section A, or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds and notes to the town therefore, and while such bonds or notes will be general obligations of the town, it is anticipated that such borrowing will be repaid through the Water Enterprise Fund.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Please.
I will. It's the same thing. It's a little more expensive because the pipe's a little bit bigger. That's pretty much, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. May I hear from the Select Board on Article 32, please?
Yes, the Select Board unanimously recommends approval of Article 32.
And appropriations.
Appropriations unanimously recommended approval of Article 32.
And financial planning.
Financial Planning recommends by unanimous vote approval of Article 32.
Water and sewer? You're on board?
Yes, sir. We're all on.
Okay, thank you. This particular article requires a two-thirds vote. Okay, so we'll be looking very carefully at the numbers. This is what we're voting on, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow the sum of $400,000 for water pipe rehabilitation, including all incidental and related expenses, or take any other action relative thereto. The voting is open. Okay, the voting has slowed. We will close the voting in 3, 2, 1, and the voting is closed. I declare that Article 32 has passed by the required two-thirds vote. Article 33, Reservoir Dam Compliance Grant Match.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $250,000 for reservoir dam compliance work, the physical removal of the dam, including all incidental and related expenses, such appropriation to also serve as the matching funds required for eligibility for a matching grant from the state of Massachusetts, and as funding, therefore, to authorize the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, to borrow said sum pursuant to the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Sections 7 or 8, or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds and notes to the transfer therefore.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and seconded. Sir?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So Northborough the Water Department owns a dam and a water body in Shrewsbury and Boylston. It's the Northborough Reservoir Dam. It's on Reservoir Street. The structure has no purpose for the town. It used to be our drinking water supply. This project has been funded at a prior town meeting in 2022 to support the design and permitting for removal of the dam. Part of that process was a feasibility study on what the most cost-effective disposition of the dam is, and that result was removal. So we went through close to a 3-year permitting process to get all state, federal, and local permits in place. That's been complete. All permits are in place, and the design is complete. They're ready to go out for construction bids. A $1 million grant application was submitted to the state about 2.5 months ago. We expect to hear from the state in the coming 2 months of whether there's an award or not. The expectation is that it'll be a positive response from the state. They did support the design phase to the tune of 80% of the costs, and we're submitting a grant application in the same percentage, 80% of the construction removal costs. So this will take a liability off the books of Northborough. And again, this is Water Enterprise Fund. This is not coming out of the taxes. This is part of the enterprise fund. It's been built into the rate study for several years. Looking forward to not talking about this dam anymore. So thank you.
May I hear from the Select Board on Article 33, please?
Yes, the Select Board unanimously recommends approval of Article 33.
And may I hear from Appropriations on 33, please?
Appropriations unanimously recommends approval of Article 33.
And Financial Planning, please.
Financial Planning, also by unanimous vote, recommends approval of Article 33.
And how about you, Water and Sewer?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, just a quick aside. This project has been on the Water and Sewer Commission books for many decades. And just jokingly, all 3 commission members have decided that we'd probably resign once this project is completed. So we're fully in support of the project, please.
Thank you. Are there any questions on Article 33? Hearing no questions, this is what we're voting on. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow the sum of $250,000 for reservoir dam compliance work, including the physical removal of the dam, such appropriation to also serve as the matching funds required for eligibility for a grant from the state of Massachusetts, or take any other action relative thereto. The voting is open. I didn't mention it before, and I should. This is a 2/3 vote. Okay, the voting has slowed. We will close the voting in 3, 2, 1. It is closed. And Article 33 passes. I declare that Article 33 has passed by the required 2/3 vote. Article 34, all schools pre-K through 8, security system upgrade and integration. Bryce McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening. I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $360,000 for purchasing and installing equipment and computer hardware and software needed for a security system upgrade and integration at the town's pre-K through 8 schools, including all incidental and related expenses, to be available for expenditure starting in fiscal year 2026 under the direction of Northborough School Committee in fiscal year 2026, and to fund said appropriation by transferring $360,000 from free cash.
The motion has been made and seconded. May I hear from the Select Board on Article 34, please?
Yes, the Select Board unanimously recommends approval of Article 34.
And may I hear from Appropriations on 34, please?
The Appropriations Committee unanimously recommends approval of Article 34.
And Financial Planning.
Financial Planning, by a majority vote, recommends approval of Article 34.
Thank you. K through 8 School Committee.
K through 8 School Committee unanimously approves warrant Article 34.
Thank you.
And I'd like to introduce Keith Lavoy for presentation.
Thank you, Bryce. Mr. Moderator, I'm Keith Lavoy. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Operations for the district, and I'll be sharing a little more about this Article 34 for the security system upgrades for a total of $360,000. This long-term investment is focused on strengthening safety, improving emergency communication, and modernizing our systems. A top priority of this plan is improving communication with the Northborough Police Department, and we do have the support of Chief Griffin for this project. Specifically, this plan supports 5 key areas. The first, safety system upgrades. This includes enhancing security cameras, upgrading radio systems, and modernizing access controls to better manage building entry. Second, to improve visitor management through the implementation of visitor scanning systems capable of conducting CORI and SORI checks to better provide stronger oversight of who enters our schools. Third, modernize communication systems to include replacing outdated public address systems with technology that improve daily communication and support emergency response. Fourth, this is a strategic capital investment. These systems typically have a lifespan of 10 to 12 years, and the plan will include service agreements and warranties to support that long-term reliability. And fifth, interoperability and system-wide modernization is a real goal, moving away from piecemeal upgrades towards a more unified system that connects schools internally and improves coordination with first responders. This article represents an important first-year investment in the safety and security of our schools by focusing on improving camera coverage and replacement of our two-way radio systems. And we would appreciate your support for this article.
Thank you. May I hear from the Select Board on Article 34, please?
Yes, the Select Board unanimously recommends approval of Article 34.
May I hear from Appropriations on 34, please?
Also unanimously recommends approval of this article.
And Financial Planning on 34.
By a majority vote, Financial Planning recommends approval of this article.
And the K through 8 School Committee?
K through 8 School Committee unanimously approves recommending approval of this article.
Thank you. And we have a question, microphone A.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mitch Cohen, 12 Whitney Street. I have no concerns about the project as proposed. I think it's wonderful. Related issue that I would bring up with other town boards, our municipal buildings are miles beyond what they're replacing at the school system, particularly town hall, library, police, and senior center really need to have better security. I really hope that folks work towards bringing something like that in the near future. I'm not going to go into any more detail about what is or isn't there. What they're replacing is a Lamborghini compared to what we have in our municipal buildings. So I hope that comes forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone B, please.
Edward Reese, 320 Howard Street. Are these proposed security systems open circuit or closed circuit?
They'll be mostly closed circuit for our internal control.
Mostly?
Yes, to support integration between our schools. We're going to be improving that overall communication and certainly with first responders, but that is the width of where the systems will go.
Okay, because my concern is that right now the federal government is overreaching and using security systems just like these to literally spy on the American public. And while I am all for improving the security of our schools, 100%, I am afraid when it gets to the point that we're putting in systems that can spy on the public and our children so that they can be used against us. The domestic terrorist cell known as ICE has proven that they are not above using children to achieve their aims, and that they are not above using our own security systems against us. So I'm very concerned about this timing and about the specific systems themselves. And as it stands right now, against my own better judgment, I am going to have to vote no to this article. To paraphrase Benjamin Franklin, those who would trade liberty for safety deserve neither. Thank you.
I'm going with microphone B again.
Ed Harlow, 20 School Street. I'm a school teacher in Newton, so I appreciate school safety very much. I have a tangential concern about whether facial recognition will be used in this system.
Facial recognition is something that is being considered for the support of, it's going to be a closed system, just to respond to the earlier comment. It will be a closed system. We are doing the infrastructure to do those external protections, but it is going to be using some facial recognition. Not immediately. That is a goal for the long-term plan.
I guess with everything in the news about Palantir selling this information worldwide, it's a concern that it be safely held in Northborough.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to go with him over there. Okay, yeah, you're next. I'm sorry.
Hi, Jesse Jacobs, 62 Chesterfield Road. I have a very similar question, but it's a bit broader in scope. I'm curious, what are the AI capabilities of the system? Which ones will be allowed, which ones won't?
The AI capabilities are really highly restricted. The things that we've explored so far are very minimal, basically to facial recognition and to identify certain things that are, coming into the building. That's probably the extent to which it's been shared with us so far to its capabilities.
And by things, you mean objects being
Bad
left in
things.
place, guns, things
Correct.
like that? Yeah. Good.
Over here now.
Hi, Eric Martin, Weston Terrace. So I'm a information security specialist, and so just a couple quick questions. Are you going to be, as well with video, right, you can do two-way communications via the audio? Will there be audio communications present?
There will.
There will. This is going to be a cloud-backed system, I'm guessing?
And internally stored as well, so on-prem.
Yeah. Are you able to share the vendor? I wasn't able to see.
We can at this time.
You can at this time. So I agree with the resident who brought up just, with audio, especially right in educational settings. Also, in schools, I know of teachers and school personnel who are still on Windows 10 laptops that are not patched. Windows 10 has been end of life since we're getting on a year now, right? And there are vulnerabilities that are coming out there that you just go to a bad web page and an attacker. I stare all day at dark web alerts where it comes up that somebody's computer got Redline Stealer on it, which is really nasty stuff, and all their credentials, everything are up in that cloud. So anybody's credentials with this now we have, forget about that. And what again, I have cameras. I own 2 breweries. I have Ubiquiti cameras. I turn off the audio, but also though, if we don't keep up with these things, right? If we don't stay on, now you're on that treadmill of software support, and if we don't do this, most people, the body will vote, nah, we don't need to upgrade it. And now we have a huge security vulnerability, and now we have minors. My gut reaction is, I'm sure this was all hashed out. This will be handling FERPA and all sorts of compliance. However, it gets dropped more often than we think it does. So again, I think against my better judgment, I too have to vote no on this one. Thank you.
Microphone A.
Yes, I work with foster care kids all over the county, and I've gone to various schools, so my question is more about the entrances. Will we have to be will someone from the secretary's office electronically let us into those buildings?
Yes, actually, that is present now, and it will be enhanced with the new system.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Microphone B, please.
John Rappa, 105 Wesson Terrace. My niece Emily was a junior at Columbine High School in April of 1999. My wife, my daughter, my son all work in schools and higher education. This we wear on our sleeve. Do not ignore the needs for security of our children, our teachers, administrators, people working in the buildings. The technological issues can be overcome. We need this. Get it done.
And we can't say no to the chief. Chief?
Brian Griffin, 211 Main Street, the police station. It's hard to follow up what Mr. Rappa just said, but as Mr. Lavoie said, the police department has full support of this project. We have a lot of smart people in the schools who have probably done their research on this, and we fully support this to keep our children, our faculty, and our visitors to our schools safe.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments on Article 34? Hearing none, this is what we're voting on, and it is a majority vote. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow the sum of $360,000 for purchasing and installing equipment and computer hardware and software needed for a security system upgrade and integration in the town's pre-K through 8 schools, including all incidental and related expenses, or take any other action relative thereto. The voting is open. And the voting has slowed. We will close the voting in 3, 2, 1, and it is closed. And Article 34 passes by the majority vote, required majority vote. Article 35, all schools pre-K through 8, technology, infrastructure, and equipment. Mr. McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $75,500 for purchase and installation of technology, infrastructure, and equipment for the town's pre-K through 8 schools, including all incidental and related expenses, to be available for expenditure starting in fiscal year 2026 under the direction of the Northborough School Committee in fiscal year 2026, and to fund said appropriation by transferring $75,500 from free cash. And Keith Lavoie will present.
May I have a second for that motion? Motion has been made and seconded.
Thank you, Bryce. Article 35 requests $75,500 to continue the district's 5-year plan to replace classroom presentation systems and other technology infrastructure as needed. This is part of a structured multi-year effort to modernize instructional technology, ensure our classrooms have reliable tools to support teaching and learning. In FY26, we completed the first phase of this plan at the Melican Middle School, upgrading 20 classrooms. This article is the next phase by outfitting the remainder of Melican, allowing us to complete the building as planned. The photo depicted in the slide behind me is what exists in many classrooms and is what we will be replacing. This is a projector on a cart that does not have any interoperability. Aging equipment will improve its reliability for teachers and students, bring consistency across the instructional models and classrooms, and this is a capital investment that keeps us on schedule with the district's long-term technology replacement plan. Thank you.
Thank you. May I hear from the Select Board on Article 35, please?
The Select Board unanimously recommends approval of Article 35.
And appropriations on 35.
The Appropriations Committee unanimously recommends approval of Article 35.
May I hear from Financial Planning on 35?
Mr. Moderator, by a unanimous vote, the Financial Planning Committee recommends approval of Article 35.
And the K through 8 School Committee, please.
K through 8 School Committee unanimously recommends approval of this article.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Millie Milton, 50 Fay Lane. So you're saying this is phase 2 of
Correct.
5?
Correct.
Is each one expected to be 75.5, or do they vary in amounts coming up?
They may fluctuate as we learn more about how these systems are working, but we're off to a good start, both at Milliken and here at Algonquin. So we're feeling like we're dialing in on a good number going forward.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Amy Jacobs, 62 Chesterfield Road. Was curious if you're replacing them with the TVs?
The new line the new line technology is what we're going to be replacing with, so it does have interoperability. It's not just the TV. It has a lot of interconnection and ability for people to operate. It basically functions as its own computer that's very large on the walls.
Have you just gotten a sense from the staff, taken a survey or anything of whether or not people like this new technology?
Yes, so far, really, it's been great. We were able to do 60 of these here at Algonquin last summer and 20 at Milliken. Excuse me, 30 at Milliken, as well as over at the Woodward School. And so far, it's been outstanding. In fact, teachers from Woodward did a presentation for the Southborough School Committee last month, and some of the stuff they were able to do was pretty sensational. So we've gotten a thumbs up so far. It doesn't have a high learning curve like some of the other technology. It's pretty user-friendly.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or concerns on Article 35? Hearing none, it requires a simple majority vote, and this is what we're voting on. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow the sum of $75,500 for purchase and installation of technology infrastructure and equipment for the town's pre-K through 8 schools, including all incidental and related expenses, or take any other action relative thereto. The voting is open. Okay, the voting has slowed. We will close the voting in 3, 2, 1. Voting is closed. And Article 35 passes by the required majority vote. Article 36, Fanny Proctor Elementary School rooftop unit replacement.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $150,000 for the purchase and installation of rooftop HVAC units at Fanny E. Proctor Elementary School to be available for expenditure starting in fiscal year 2026 under the direction of the Northborough School Committee in fiscal year 2026, and to fund said appropriation by transferring $150,000 from free cash.
The motion has been made and seconded. May we have the presentation, please?
Keith Lavoie.
Thank you, Bryce. Article 36 requests $150,000 for the first year of a 4-year plan to replace rooftop air handling and heating units at the Proctor School. The unit proposed for replacement this year has failed. Its heat exchanger has cracked and cannot be repaired, requiring replacement. This article begins a phased plan to replace 4 rooftop units that support the gymnasium and cafeteria, which are showed in the picture on the slide. These are critical spaces used daily by students, staff, and the community. These units are essential for maintaining heat, ventilation, and air circulation in those areas, and this phased approach allows us to address infrastructure needs in a responsible and manageable way over time. It is worth noting that we've experienced a failure on that one unit, which has put stress on the other units. The hope is that if we can get onto this replacement cycle, we're going to start seeing that stress be less over time to keep up with the plan that we have in place, and we would appreciate your support.
Thank you. May I hear from the Select Board on Article 36, please?
Yes, the Select Board unanimously recommends approval of Article 36.
And may I hear from Appropriations on 36, please?
Appropriations Committee voted to recommend in the majority with one abstention on Article 36.
Thank you. May I hear from Financial Planning, please?
Financial Planning voted as a majority to recommend approval of this article.
Thank you. And K through 8 School Committee.
School Committee unanimously recommends approval of this article.
Thank you. Are there any questions or concerns on Article 36? Hearing none, this requires a simple majority vote. We're voting on to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow the sum of $150,000 for the purchase and installation of rooftop HVAC units at the Fannie E. Proctor Elementary School, including all incidental and related expenses, or take any other action thereto. The voting is open. And the voting has slowed. We will close the voting in 3, 2, 1. Voting is closed. And Article 36 passes by the required majority vote. Article 37, Marion E.Z. Elementary School Roof Recovery Project.
All right, you have to bear with me on this one. I'll do my best. I move that the town vote to appropriate $5,583,152, which does not include the $100,000 previously appropriated for feasibility study and schematic design for the purpose of paying costs of final roof design, project management, and construction services for the Marion E.Z. Elementary School Roof Recovery Project at 33 Howard Street, Northborough, including all costs incidental and related thereto. Said amount to be expended under the direction of the Northborough School Committee. And to meet said appropriation transfer, the sum of $27,061 from premium receipts reserved, and further to authorize the treasurer, with the approval of the Select Board, to borrow the sum of $5,556,091 under MGL Chapter 44, Chapter 70B, or any other enabling authority, provided that the town acknowledges that any grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority is a discretionary non-entitlement program, and that any project costs in excess of any grant awarded shall be the sole responsibility of the town, and further provided that any grant received shall not exceed 48.68% of eligible project costs or the maximum grant amount determined by the MSBA, and further provided that this appropriation is contingent upon an affirmative vote of the town to exempt the amounts required for the payment of principal and interest on said borrowing from the limits of Proposition 2.5 under MGL Chapter 59, Section 21C, and that the amount authorized to be borrowed shall be reduced by any grant amount set forth in any project funding agreement executed with the MSBA.
Motion has been made and seconded. May we have the presentation, please?
Back again. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I would like to thank Jason Little and the town administration for their support as we navigated this process to bring us to tonight's presentation. This evening, the public schools of Northborough appreciate the opportunity. Appreciate the opportunity to bring the essential Z Roof Recovery Project for your consideration. This project is in partnership with the Massachusetts School Building Authority through the Accelerated Repair Program. I am joined this evening by Tom Ellis from Jones Lang LaSalle as our project manager, and Steve Watchhorn from Raymond Design Associates as our architect. The Massachusetts School Building Authority Accelerated Repair Program is a competitive grant program. The town of Northborough applied 2 times for the Z-Roof project. Finally, in 2025, the Z-Roof met the criteria and was accepted into the program. After the acceptance, the MSBA assigned the district, Jones and LaSalle, as our project manager, and Raymond James Associates as our architect. They supported the development of options and recommended a roof solution. After an in-depth review of current conditions, the MSBA approved the scope of work at the February 2026 board meeting. Current roof leaks disrupt learning, whether it is an open ceiling tile or barrels collecting water. It is a distraction for students and places demands on staff to adjust their plans. These disruptions to learning require classes to be held in alternative locations. Numerous areas of the current roof exhibit these conditions. Drainage has been compromised, water is pooling, resulting in continual roof leaks. The structure is now showing signs of deterioration. Vegetation is growing, which is a serious concern and a clear sign of the deterioration of the roof system. Flashing is being pulled away from the building, and seams are failing as well. There are active roof leaks on the pitch section. The roof is beyond its useful life and beyond repair. The roof recovery project. The flat roof areas will include the removal of stone ballasts, which hold on the current roofing system. It'll replace flashing and remove wet insulation. Because it is a recovery project, we'll be retaining portions of the rubber membrane and installing and adhering a new rubber membrane on top at a 60 mil thickness. And this will provide us with a 20-year warranty. The slope sections of the roof will include work to remove shingles and sheathing and install new plywood, ice and water shield, and architectural shingles with a 40-year warranty. The budget. The Z-Roof Recovery Project budget includes the cost of roof construction, project management, and architectural fees, as well as a contingency. This results in a total gross cost of $5,583,132. This includes an estimated MSBA grant of $2,599,005 at a reimbursement rate of 41.32%. Actually, I think it's, 41.32%. This results in a net cost to the town, do I have that right? 48.68%. My math is off here. Thank you. This results in a net cost to the town of $3,084,147. This project will require a supermajority vote today and a simple majority at the ballot on May 12th. With approval with today's vote and the May 12th ballot, the construction is anticipated to begin in the summer of '27. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I am joined by our OPM and architect, who will as well. Thank you.
Yes, microphone B, please.
Kathy DeGraff, 23 Edmonds Way. Can you give us a little bit of the history of the roof? How old is it? How did we get here to the point where it failed? Should we have caught this sooner?
So the roof was installed in 1998 when the building was renovated. Since that time, the stone ballasts, which are literally stones that hold down the flat sections, were probably not the correct roofing solution at the time. So we have been exhibiting and having to repair those sections. That deterioration is speeding up. Since 2021, We've really seen an escalation of that, not only on the flat sections, but as well as the pitch sections. So we've been keeping up with the repairs as we go, but we can see that the deterioration is speeding up. And that's why it also meets the criteria, that's why it meets the criteria for MSBA, that it is older than 25 years.
So did you say 1988?
1998, excuse me.
1998,
98.
okay. Okay, so it's not really that old. It seems like it failed fairly
We got
quickly.
pretty good miles out of that roof, getting to 27 years, yeah.
I'm just wondering if there was something, if we had acted on this sooner, would it have been substantially cheaper? Because it seems like with all the water leaks, now we've got water damage that has to be cleaned up.
Right. Good question. That was part of the investigation when we got in to really look at some of the current conditions and what we were experiencing. We're actually very fortunate that the project right now is a roof recovery, where we're able to retain a lot of that. So I think we caught it at that perfect time where we didn't have to go to a full replacement, which would have been substantially more expensive.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And before we go to more questions or concerns, I did not get the recommendations from the various boards and committees. So if I could hear from the Select Board on Article 37, please.
The Select Board unanimously recommends approval of Article 37.
Thank you. May I hear from Appropriations, please?
The Appropriations Committee unanimously recommended approval of this article.
And Financial Planning, please.
Mr. Moderator, by a majority vote, the Financial Planning Committee recommends approval of Article 37.
And may I hear from the K through 8 School Committee, please?
The K through 8 School Committee unanimously recommends approval of this article.
Thank you. And thank you for your patience. Microphone A, please.
Thank you, Jesse Jacobs, Chesterfield Road. First, I preface this question with two statements. One, you get no argument from me that this roof needs to be replaced. It needs to be replaced, or reclamated, as you say. Second, I am not a specialist in roofing systems, but in terms of cost per square foot, this feels high. Could you detail how the costs come to that level?
Actually, I'll probably lean to the architect for that. Steve, would you be able to help me with that one? They didn't think they would have to come up here, but now they do.
I apologize.
No, please. He's wearing work boots. He does not wear a suit, so that should give you a good message. He's ready to go. Thanks, Steve.
I was up on a roof all day today, so I'm wearing boots. No, these prices, as you can see here, the roofing estimates, which is just under $5 million, is representative of the square foot cost that we normally see on a publicly bid project of this type.
And we also have, again, at this stage of the game, we're only at the end of schematic design. The cost estimates reflect that there will be some contingency built into this project, hopefully depending upon to deal with unforeseen conditions. And we know right now with what's going on with oil prices, things could head in a different direction. Hopefully we have enough money allocated in the budget to address that.
Thank you.
Microphone B, please.
I think he was in line before me.
Okay. We'll go that way. Thank you.
Frank Capri, Overlook Drive. I was actually the first kindergarten class at Z back in '98. So my question is, will this roof recovery decrease energy costs long term?
It will. It has to meet certain energy code requirements as part of the recovery program, so it will. Yes.
Okay, and to follow up, will it include solar panels?
It will be solar ready. But it will not include solar panels in the beginning. That's not advised for the beginning of a project once we get it installed, but it is a consideration for the future, and it will be ready to be used for a solar array.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Hi, Jake Ruskowski, 24 School Street. You'll have to apologize, or I'll have to apologize. I just got here now. I had to pick up kids from practice, so I may have missed part of the meeting. But there was an earlier slide. It actually was one of the I don't know if it was this. No, it was before this. It was when they were doing the introductions on the website. And there was a line item for $881,200 for architect and OPM fees. That's not shown on that current slide. So that's different from what was on the videos.
That is included in the roofing estimate, so it is part of the
Okay.
4.9.
Can I just ask, what is $881,000? What did that, for architect fees to draw a roof plan? As somebody that's drawn a lot of roof plans for commercial projects over the years, it's generally one of the easier plans to draw in a set of architectural drawings. So I'm trying to understand how $881,000 was budgeted for that, because you look at the Peasley Feasibility Committee, they have 17 consultants on that committee. The architect is being paid a little bit over $900,000 to bring those through schematic design for a major project. And this is just a roof, and it was $881,000. So can somebody outlay what was spent that amounts to $881,000 in
Do you want
design
that, Tom?
fee of an existing roof?
Thank you.
Sure. I'm Tom Ellis with JLL, the project manager. So I won't let the architect try to defend their costs, but there is a substantial amount of work that needs to be done. The part of being in the MSBA program is they'll fund you, but you have to play by the rules, which is they have a specific scope of work that the design team has to follow. They have a certain scope of work that the OPM has to follow. So it takes a lot of work to get that scope completed. So it's not just a simple process of let's go up and do a plan. There's a lot of work that was done already to do the energy assessment. There are different options MSBA requires you to do during the feasibility study and schematic design phase, and then to do the drawings to meet public bid requirements. And then we have to have somebody on site full-time every day that there's a contractor there. That's part of the MSBA funding requirement. So when you add it all up, it's broken down into the budget. But it's part of the public process to provide the professional services that the MSBA requires.
I mean, can the architect speak to what portion of that is PJM fees versus what is architect fees? Is it of that $881,000?
It's in the breakdown. I'd have to pull up my computer and get it. But
and was any of this structural design related to future solar that is being added?
See, maybe you can talk about but yes, MSBA, part of this is required you have to be solar ready and you have to bring the building up based upon different thresholds to ADA requirements from CMR 521, which requires some, you'll see there's ADA cost in here too, which is part of that. So the design team has to do an accessibility study to determine what the requirements are and what's going on too. So there's different levels of scopes of work, not just the roof, that are part of the funding requirements.
Yeah, I just want to confirm that we do have a structural engineer on our team that's looked at the capacity of the roof to handle future solar panels, both on the sloped roof and the flat roofs. And as Tom mentioned, we also have some interior accessibility work. There's going to be some structural engineering to be done as part of that as well.
Thank you. I believe we're still on microphone B. Yes.
John Rappa, 105 Wesson Terrace. Just to give you some numbers, this project represents 60% of the capital projects presented to the Financial Planning Committee this year. In Worcester, Hudson, Southborough, and Grafton, across 5 schools, $4.9 million for a roof in Worcester, $7.2 million for a high school and a K-8 roof in Hudson, $4.5 million for a Southborough K-8 school, and $5.3 million for a Grafton K-8 school. These are all sourced from the Advocate and the Telegram in the last 2 months. This is in the church and the pew of these types of projects.
Still on B. Thank you.
Mike Shaka, 120 Maynard Street. Keith, there was a picture, I don't know if we could pull it back up, of the roof where it showed some water that was collecting. So I think from conversations, further back. Here we go. So just to be clear, and correct me if I'm wrong, the drainage system of a flat roof is in the center. So that's showing by design the way it's supposed to work. that water should be collecting to the center. So that's not a problem, if I'm correct. That's actually by design.
It is by design, but those sections are compromised, so we aren't getting the proper drainage to those bells, and that will be part of the adjustments that are made for the new roof. Partially created by the stone ballast that exists.
And is this determined as a catastrophic failure, this roof?
No, that's why it's still capable of being recovered.
Okay. How many leaks have been identified?
Dozens and have been identified, and presently I spoke to Principal Bell and Bud Richardson, our facilities manager. I think we have 8 active leaks after the last set of snow and rain that have occurred.
Okay, and I believe there were some heat maps
Correct.
that were done. What percentage of the roof showed that it was compromised?
Do you know that, Steve? 2 to 4%? That's wet.
Yes.
2 to 4% was completely wet.
Yeah, okay, so two, last I had heard was 2% of the heat map was.
Can I ask, can we move on and give other people a chance to talk as well?
I think I'm still on my time, sir.
But you're cross-examining and not really asking questions.
I'm clarifying points.
I don't think so.
Excuse me, sir. The ADA requirement is 30%. That's the trigger, correct, of the evaluation of the building?
Correct.
Okay. So what is the evaluation of the building?
The ADA evaluation of the building?
No, the assessment, I'm sorry.
The assessment.
The assessed value of the building.
Do you know that back? Jason, do you know that by any chance?
I believe it's about 9 million.
9 million?
Yeah, it's just south of 9
Yeah.
million. So in contrast, we're building a school that we're projecting could be 120 million, but the assessed value of this is 8 million. And by having this price tag, we're hitting the 30% mark, causing the ADA costs.
Correct.
Because of the assessment. So it is possible that it could be reassessed more properly and not have to hit that trigger. In addition, I think the requirement for the solar is based on the current administration in the governor's office, and that very well could change, and that, again, could be eliminated from these costs. So, I mean, I think, there's quite a few points. The $1 million in architecture, the $1 million of architecture and OPM, the overall cost of the roof. And one last question. What historical projects have we done in recent history of similar roofs in town? I believe there's been 2 other roofs that we've done.
The Proctor roof was done in 2022, 2023.
Okay, how much was that?
Just over 2 million, but that is a very different type of roofing system. That already had the pitch sections replaced. It was just for the EPDM, and it did not include the gym or the cafeteria, so the square footage was significantly smaller.
Good, comparatively?
You said you had one more question.
And I think my timer's still going,
No,
sir.
I am the one who does the
Okay.
timekeeping.
Yeah, well, hopefully not for
Okay?
long.
So I'm going to move on to
Okay, very well.
microphone A.
Thanks, Mr. Moderator. Jacob Jones, 106 Green Street. First, I just wanted to say that I'm hopeful that we'll vote yes on this, but I wanted to share a little bit of my process because when I first saw this coming through, like many, I saw this number. It's a high number. Anyone who's ever done anything with roofs, commercial, residential, anywhere, you're looking at this and you're like, that's a high number. Wow. I wanted to thank Mr. Moderator, I wanted to thank the Superintendent Martineau, Assistant Superintendent Lavoie, and Principal Bell, because when I was seeing this, I said, can I see this myself? And they really quickly accommodated a little tour. I went through and they showed me the issues. I agree we need to do this project. And no, it's not a catastrophic failure, but this is the right time. I agree, Mr. Moderator, as was said, this is the right time to do it so it doesn't become a catastrophic failure, and then we have to fix it under a cycle that we may not have MSBA support, and then it could be even worse. And I know the school committee has addressed that question, and I think they're right. Finally, and so it's, the cost is just wow. I understand that maybe hopefully we'll get contractors who can come in bid, and maybe hopefully, let's cross our fingers that they give us a reasonable bid. I sure hope so. But the last question, and I really appreciated the gentleman's question about the 881,000, because that was another area of concern of mine. We're not designing lunar modules here. $881,000 for, and I know that includes architect and OPM.
Correct.
Which is, I don't remember the breakdown. It's some amount for the architect, some amount for the project manager. So it's less when you divide it between the two. But I'm also familiar with what we're paying for the architect and the OPM for a really, really big project we're working on right now that's way larger in scope than this. And when I compare what we're paying them to this 881, I'm like, this sounds, like the gentleman said, I agree, this sounds a lot. And I heard the explanation that maybe that 881 is a lot higher because of extra work that's done for MSBA. And I don't have a specific question for that. I do have a kind of a question if they are able to talk to it. If there wasn't an MSBA extra work requirement, what could a project of this scope be done OPM and architecture-wise instead of 881? And then I'm going to end, and if you can answer that, that'd be great. But my perhaps plea to my friends around here is maybe what's going on is through state programs, we're being required to do a lot more work to get really grants from our own tax dollars back to us. And I don't know that extra work is adding extra value. Thanks, Mr. Moderator.
Do you want to try it? Yeah.
But please vote yes.
Thanks, Tom.
So I'll quickly try to discuss a little bit about the MSBA program and the requirements that we're required to have. So the cost is actually broken down, and like for this first phase, our fee is actually fixed for this schematic design phase. We've been working on this for a fair amount of time, and we're fixed for $15,000. So we've been working for 8 months. That's not a lot of money for this phase. But the design team has been doing a lot of work, and they're probably working beyond what their fixed fee is for this phase as well, because there was a limited amount of money that was appropriated at the original town meeting for this phase, $100,000. So the requirements that MSBA has, and this is part of, you can't really cut and say, well, let's try to get rid of the ADA cost or get rid of the structural. MSBA's program, it's all or nothing. If you want the 48% reimbursement, they're looking at the project to be sure that it's done very high quality, so that they realize that when you're spending capital money on your projects, you're getting good design, you're getting good oversight in construction. You know, you talked about the cost of the project. Our goal is to get this out as early as we can so we can get a lot of people interested in the job. That's when you get good bids. When you have good documents and you have a fair amount of bidders. Just got done with a project. We had 12 bidders, and they were all really tight in there, and that showed exactly that was the cost of the project. And so we're going to bid this out under Chapter 149 requirements, and you're going to get hard bids from those vendors and those contractors. So you're going to find out what the cost is. The key is MSBA stipulating what you do and how you do it so that it's a quality job, and that's the conditions of their funding. So, you know, ADA is CMR 521 building code requirements. The appropriation or the assessment of the building is stipulated. You can't manipulate that and recess the building in 1 year to try to come down. They understand that could have happened. They don't allow it to happen. So you just got to take the building assessment the way it is in your community and use that as the formula for whether ADA costs apply to the project or not. So it is kind of, if you want to take the money from MSBA to help offset your costs, which is about half your cost, it's really a good deal overall, because otherwise you're on your own and you're going to be paying, you know, it's never going to be cheaper than it is right now, and it's probably, you know, if you have to do it on your own, it's going to be substantially more cost. And MSBA says if you don't want our money, you can do it on your own, and you can negotiate whatever contracts you want according to Mass General Law. But that's kind of the summary of what the MSBA program is. So.
Thank you. Microphone A, please.
Yes, Doug Stone, 33 Birch Hill Road, and there's two main reasons why this costs so much. The first is that, as the gentleman pointed out, we need to depend on the MSBA grant. But all of these costs, based on my experience with the police station siding, you're up against prevailing wages with the state. They're inflated, well above what they should be. So that's part of the reason. The second reason is that the town has a history of letting our buildings fall apart. Need I remind us, we've got 2 fire stations, a police station, 4 West Main, the White Cliffs. They all went beyond their ability to be maintained. And just as the woman said over there, what's the plan for the next schools? We wait until we have leaks, and then we have to get this emergency funding? And so I'll end my time with asking that question. What is the plan to replace the roofs on the other buildings in town?
I can answer for the schools. For the schools, we are actively working on the Peaslee project. We did replace roofs for the pitch sections at Peaslee. Lincoln Street has been renovated, but we are looking at the flat portion of that roof. That was not part of the renovation back in 2016. And at the top of the list is the Melican Middle School, which we are actively looking at, but would not qualify for any type of MSBA programming at the current time. So they are on the docket. They have been part of our capital plan, and we are monitoring them closely.
So we would be paying those with our own funds then to prevent?
The hope is that by the time that we're able to get to that point, they would qualify for the same grant program that we're using, hopefully, for the Z project.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Staying at microphone A, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mike Tejan, 30 Osier Ave, member of the Select Board, but only speaking for myself. I think the list that Mr. Rappa went over is very important, right? Recovery of a school roof in this state is very expensive. That's just what it is. Not all those towns have the ability to get MSBA reimbursement. I believe if you read the article about the Grafton roof, that number, right, almost the same as this, 5.3 or in that area, is before any reimbursement. They're not right now in line to get MSBA reimbursement. We have a responsibility, as everyone has been saying, to maintain our town buildings, especially the ones that have elementary students inside them. They shouldn't be in a building that's leaking, having drainage issues. We have a responsibility to repair it. We shouldn't punish them because of the rules and regulations that might add, well, does add additional cost from the State House. I would urge you to vote yes to maintain this building and keep it a safe and secure learning environment for the students at Z. Thanks.
Microphone B, please.
Yes, Greg Rudy, 28 Moore Lane. I have a somewhat different question. With all the water intrusion, the wet building materials, the other issues that are going on, has mold been tested for, detected in any areas such as ventilation systems, desks, floors?
We've been able to stay away from it because it has remained localized, which has been good. We have not had to do a significant remediation at Z, but that's one of our fears of what would be happening next if the continuation of deterioration occurs.
So it can certainly develop over time.
Correct.
Thank you.
That's what we're hoping to prevent.
Yes.
Michael Shaka, 120 Maynard Street. So there was a comment concerning prevailing wage, and I hear this thrown out at virtually every town meeting and other places as well. Just to be clear, prevailing wage, a quick search, which I believe this is accurate, is $65 to $85 per hour. That's prevailing wage. So, you know, when I look at HVAC contractors, prevailing wage, this is one I know for certain. A step 6 electrician, which is a master, the September 2026 rate for Massachusetts prevailing wage, I think is $85.36. If I could get an electrician for $85.36, I would get them all day long. Prevailing wage, it's a fallacy. It's an excuse. I just want to be clear. I think Keith and Greg do a fantastic job. I think you guys are great. I'm not questioning the fact that this roof could use repair and that it needs to be addressed. The problem that I have with it is these types of programs where you have overinflated costs like nearly $1 million for an OPM. And with all due respect, I have to take it with a grain of salt when, one of the speakers is benefiting financially from it. You have inflated costs that don't align with how most of the people in this room, I think, would reach into their own wallet and fix their own roof based on the square footage. And if you take the core materials and the labor rates, it doesn't add up. That's the problem here. It's not about, nobody wants kids being wet, nobody wants roof leaks, nobody wants mold, nobody wants any of that. The problem is common sense and doing it for a price tag that makes sense, and this price tag does not make sense.
Mr. Stone.
Yes, Doug Stone again, 33 Birch Hill, as a follow-up to the prevailing wage. For example, on the police station, the painters were getting up to $80 per hour, and the contractor has to show that those workers were paid that amount. They can't just pocket the money and pay somebody $25 an hour. And another cost that I know about is that with our fire station being built right now, the supervisor is being paid $130 per hour to supervise construction of the station. So that's just one little tidbit. And so my answer to that has always been, that I've said at this meeting before, is to call your state representative and senator and say, hey, look, let's make this affordable. We've got families that need to get work done at a reasonable price and keep our taxes in line. Thank you.
Microphone B, please.
Susan Sartori at 46.
Can someone lower the microphone for her?
Would you like me to do
Thank
that?
you.
Thank you. Susan Sartori at 46.
I didn't say drop the mic. Oh. I just heard the mic cry, uncle.
Okay.
Yay, yes.
Can I talk?
Go right ahead, Susan.
Susan Sartori, 465 Green Street. I want to start off by saying that the only way that we can manage our buildings these days, the larger projects, are through the MSBA. It is not a perfect program, and it is very expensive. But I'm grateful that we have it for one reason and one reason only. That is because these people are educators. They're not really building people and architects and engineers. And they need to go someplace to get these jobs done. It is expensive. It's very expensive. But they have used their due diligence since they found out through the Proctor School. There were leaks there, and they had lots to remediate. I think they showed us a slide where they had to pay up to $300,000 to remediate there. So they have stayed diligent on taking care of their roofs and going through the projects through the MSBA. You see how many times they went forward before they were accepted. They have now been accepted. The only other option, other than us going forward with this, is that if they do not do this, they will have to do it on their own. And that means if this does not pass tonight as a 2/3 vote and at the ballot with a 2/3 vote, we're going to have to fund the repairs, the recovery of that roof at the Z school. We're already pressed for money. This town worked hard to not have an override this year. They scraped dollars from here, there, and everywhere, as did the school department. We won't have a lot of money to spend on this roof. They have made it so that we can get some reimbursement and we won't pay the full price. I ask you to consider having respect for what has been done over the years to maintain the buildings, what needs to continue to be done, and that we need a very large group of you to speak out tonight in favor and to come to the polls on May 12th to vote in favor of this, please.
Seeing that there's no one that has questions or concerns, I will let you know, as it's been mentioned several times this evening, this is a 2/3 vote, and this is what we'll be voting on. To see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $5,583,152 for the purpose of paying costs for final roof design, project management, and construction services for the Marion E. Z. Elementary School roof recovery project at 33 Howard Street, for which the town may be eligible for a school construction grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, MSBA, or take any other action relative thereto. The vote is open. The vote has slowed. We will shut the voting down in 3, 2, 1, and voting's closed. The vote is yes 166, no 19. I declare that the article has passed by the required 2/3 vote. Article 38, Community Preservation Fund, window restoration and preservation of Northborough Historical Society building.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $208,518 from the Community Preservation Fund revenues and $4,242 from the Community Preservation Fund Historic Reserve for a total of $212,760 as a grant to the Northborough Historical Society for the preservation and rehabilitation of 52 Main Street, a property listed on the National Register of Historic Places, specifically the preservation and restoration of 23 double-hung windows and replacement of 15 double-hung storm windows, and in accordance with state law, all work shall conform to the most recent edition of the Secretary of the Interior Standards for the Treatment of Historic Properties, and further to authorize the Select Board to enter into a grant agreement with the town and the Northborough Historical Society to carry out the purposes of this vote.
Second. The motion has been made and seconded. Mr. Campbell, your presentation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is John Campbell from 29 Spruce Hill Drive, and I'm here again representing your Community Preservation Committee. As a reminder, the CPA funds come from a 1.5% surcharge over $100,000 of your property tax value, I should say over the first $100,000 of your property tax, and it's augmented by state matching funds. Since the beginning of CPA in Northborough, we have received over $3.6 million in state matching funds to date. The projects that we've accomplished together with CPA in Northborough are all around us, from the open space preserved to the great trails network that we have in town, to new recreation facilities such as pickleball, such as the renovations at Assabet Park, to historic restorations such as the bell tower recently at the Church Street at the First Parish Church, and the renovations at our historic burial grounds, and previously at the Northborough Historical Society, such as the town common that we now enjoy. And finally, for the creation of affordable housing apartments at Center Drive, at Main Street, on Boundary Street, and soon to be in the Colonial Village. As a reminder, by law, we are obligated to delegate at least 10% of each year's new expected revenues to the three main core areas of CPA: open space and recreation, affordable housing, and historical preservation. This year, we're fortunate to have the unreserved fund, or what we really call our savings account, that has $1,200,838 in it. And adding to that the expected revenues of $870,000 for this coming fiscal year, we have a total budget of $1,872,838 available. If, as I hope you will, approve all the articles that we bring to you tonight, we will still have a reserve of over $385,000 for future projects. Again, we're talking about Article 38, but this is the first of three projects, applications that we're bringing to you tonight. And all three have a common theme. In each case, they seek to rehabilitate a town asset to make it safer and more durable long-term for our visitors, students, and residents to use. The first of these is for the renovations at the Historical Society building. There's some precedent to this. You have voted for CPA funds for several other projects to help restore that building. It's a very well-used building in town. I'm fascinated to learn how many groups come through it. So it's a great asset that we need to continue to support. It's hard to show in pictures, but when you walk through, you can see the evidence of the deterioration at most of the windows. As a result, they don't work properly, they leak, they cause higher energy than normal, and they're just not suitable long-term. So the project would seek to correct many of these deficiencies. The windows are all removed. They're sent to a qualified contractor. They rebuild them in concert with the historic standards that we mentioned earlier, and they bring them back and reinstall them. They'll be now weather-tight, and in addition, with the new storm windows, they have a much more efficient building. So again, I ask for your vote and support on Article 38 for the historic preservation. Be happy to take any questions as well.
Before we have questions, I'd like recommendations from the Select Board, please.
The Select Board unanimously recommends approval of Article 38.
And appropriations, please.
The Appropriations Committee unanimously recommends approval of Article 38.
And may I hear from Financial Planning, please?
Financial Planning, by a unanimous vote, recommends approval of Article 38.
Any questions, any concerns? There's a race to the microphone. And A wins.
Noam Corbin, 35 Whitney Street. I've been a member of the Society well over 30 years. I'm the current historian. The amount of use of that building between the museum and the use of the facilities, it's important that we continue to renovate the building. With it being on the National Register of Historic Places, there's only a few places in town like that. It's important that we keep the building up and keep it restored. Thank you.
Microphone B, please.
Jake Ruskowski, 24 School Street. I live just down the street from this building, and we've visited it quite a bit. I'm actually asking for people to vote against this bill. I do not think that taking this choice and restoring the windows is the proper course of action. I believe the storm windows, they already interfere with the historic character of the building. Coming back with aluminum storm windows is a bad idea. I suggested years ago that if they're going to do this, they go with Marvin Architectural Ultimate Clad windows. They're aluminum windows. They are significantly more energy efficient, replacement windows. The layperson is not going to notice a difference between them. They're probably going to cost less money overall than the $212,000 that you're spending on restoring single pane windows and then ruining the character of the building by putting back storm windows on them. There were no storm windows when this building was built in the 1860s. So to say that we're keeping the character of it and putting storm windows on is kind of a false false narrative. I just don't think it's a good value for this cost compared to replacing with Ultimate Windows. I'm not a Marvin rep, but Marvin can match the profiles of the mullions on the windows almost identical. And as I said, like, I understand it's a historic building, but this has been done thousands of times across the country where windows get upgraded. And if you were coming at us and asking for upgraded windows, I would be on board, no questions asked. But I think coming back with just single pane glazing, you're going to be back in 10 or 15 years with the same issues, asking for more money to restore them a second time. Thank you.
Microphone A, please.
Yeah, Norm Corbin, 35 Whitney. I have Marvin windows in my home. I have confidence in them for sure. But the fact of the matter, to use CPA funding, it has to be a restoration project. We cannot go out and buy new windows for this project. That's just the way the world is. So that's the key thing on this one. It's and the storms have been up there for a long, long time. We do have to take into effect what we want to do to, try to keep the heat in the building as best we can, because that is our highest cost right now. But I just want to make the point that we could go out and buy windows if we could afford them, but we cannot do that with CPA funding. It has to be a restoration project.
Yes, please.
Yes, Bob Light, 48 Emerson Road. I'm the chair of the Historic District Commission. The Historic District Commission unanimously supported this project and provided a letter of support. This is a long overdue restoration project for a iconic Northborough historic building. As mentioned, it's on the National Register of Historic Places. It was the original Baptist church built in 1860 and is now home to not only the Northborough Historical Society, but it also has the museum and the archives. And the archives and museum are used extensively by the Historic District Commission and other town committees and departments. And as mentioned, it serves as a meeting house for many groups in town, private and town groups. So we strongly support this project. It is well needed and frankly long overdue. Thank you.
My name is Mark. There it goes again.
My name is Mark Bashore. I'm 24 Main Street, and I'm a longtime member of the Historical Society and the Board of Directors, too. And our biggest expense year after year, and it's very high, is heating. So anything that does great in preserving the heat, lowering our heating costs, we really need. So like the man said, I mean, who's against this, that might not be visible to the average eye, but I think we really need to have this here because we got to save on the heating costs. And if it's not visible to the average eye, what difference does it? Let's get this, please, passed. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're talking about Article 38. It requires a majority vote, and this is what we're voting on. To see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $212,760 from the Community Preservation Fund as a grant to the Northborough Historical Society for the preservation and rehabilitation of 52 Main Street, specifically the preservation and restoration of 23 double-hung windows and replacement of 15 double-hung storm windows, or take any other action relative thereto. The voting is open. Okay, the voting has slowed. We will close the voting in 3, 2, 1. The voting is closed. And the article has passed by the required majority vote. Article 39, Community Preservation Fund, Melican Middle School softball and baseball field renovation project. Mr. Campbell.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $227,100 from the Community Preservation Fund fiscal year 2027 estimated annual revenues to the Northborough Public Schools for the purpose of renovating the softball and baseball fields at Melican Middle School, including renovations of the infields, replacement of existing fencing and benches, and construction of new dugouts, and all incidental and related expenses.
May I have a second, please? Motion's been made and seconded.
Okay, this is the second of our rehabilitation projects that we want to bring before you as voters. And these fields are just a mess. If anyone's been over there lately, you can see that they're completely unusable. And the school and the softball organization brought forth to our committee more information about just how not only unusable they are, but unsafe due to fencing that has barbs sticking out, both on the backstops as well as along the side fences. The benches are not really suitable to sit on. And the fields cannot stand any stormwater whatsoever. They're completely unusable after a storm. The project will include some dugouts. This is an example of the type of dugout. It's a lower cost solution rather than a complete enclosure. It has weather and sunlight protection and maintains safe benches and fencing. The project includes all the landscaping, all the new fencing and benches, and ultimately it will enhance the fields and allow for use by the Melican teams, by other youth organizations in town, and also any other organization that wants to use the field for softball and baseball. The Parks and Rec Commission told me this is one of their top priorities, and so we ultimately felt like it was very affordable within the CPA revenues that we have, and very good use. It also, if you will, it takes some burden off the school budget and the town capital plans by using CPA funding for this purpose. So thanks for your support. I hope for your yes vote.
Thank you. May I hear from the Select Board on Article 39?
Yes, the Select Board unanimously recommends approval of Article 39.
And may I hear from Appropriations, please?
The Appropriations Committee unanimously recommends approval of this article.
And Financial Planning, please.
Additionally, the Financial Planning Committee recommends approval of this by a unanimous vote, Article 39.
Thank you. I see we're lined up. Let's start with microphone A, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. John Meter, Cedar Hill Road. John, great job as usual. Just a quick question. Who's administering the design and construction of this? Is this a CPA committee or school committee? My question really is who gets to get a chance to look at the layout of the proposed project?
The school will manage the project ultimately. So as it moves forward, they would be a resource for getting more information. The CPA does not manage the project it brings forth to you. We are asked for the funding to be brought to the recipient, in this case, the schools. I should comment that the ultimate plan and some maintenance is often handled by volunteers within the Northborough softball and baseball associations.
Microphone B, please.
Jake Ruskowski, 24 School Street. I think this is exactly what CPA is for. It's fantastic. And for that value that we're getting, my daughter's on the 8th grade softball team. They can't play softball there. It's not allowed to play there. They have to play at Z School, which is sad for a middle school to not even be able to play home games at their own school. She won't be able to take advantage of this because this is her last year there, but please vote for this. It's just sad that the softball team can't even use the fields. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad you're in favor of this one.
Microphone A, please.
Rick Hagan, One Laurel Avenue. John, about 20 years ago, I think we used some CPA money to put irrigation in for the fields there. Is the irrigation system still working there, or is any of this money required to update that or repair it? I imagine you're going to need to have water there once you get the fields in.
I can't speak to the upkeep of it, but I fully expect that it's operational. CPA funded irrigation there as well as at the
About 20
Howard
years ago.
Street softball field by Z School.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Not seeing any other questions. This vote requires a majority vote. And this is what we'll be voting on. I move the town vote to appropriate the sum of $227,000, $227,100 from the Community Preservation Fund fiscal year 2027. Estimated annual revenues to the Northborough Public Schools for the purpose of renovating the softball and baseball fields at Melican Middle School, including renovation of the infields, replacement of the existing fencing and benches, and construction of new dugouts, and all incidental and related expenses, all as shown on handout to the town meeting entitled Motion Article Amendment 39. Once again, a simple majority, and the vote is open. And the voting is slowed. We will close the voting in 3, 2, 1. It's closed. And Article 39 passes by the majority required.
Thank you.
Article 40, Community Preservation Fund, Blake Street Park Improvement Project.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $170,902 from the Community Preservation Fund fiscal year 2027 estimated annual revenues and $612,998 from the Community Preservation Unreserved Fund for a total of $783,900 to the Northborough Planning Department for the purpose of renovating a pocket park and 13 parking spaces at 0 Blake Street, including installation of ADA, AAB compliant sidewalks and parking spaces, area lighting, a pergola, park furniture, landscaping, drainage facilities, and new parking lot surfacing, and all incidental and related expenses.
Motion has been made and seconded.
Whoops. Okay, this is our third rehabilitation project that we're bringing forth to the town. And I'm going to walk through the existing conditions at the Blake Street Park area, show you what the scope of the project is going to include, and then show you some design images for how we envision the improved park. And finally, the benefits to the town and why we feel this is completely affordable and an excellent use of CPA funds in town. First image is part of the parking area, just one of the areas that gets heavy rainwater collection at any time that there's rain in the area because the drainage is so poor in the entire park. From this view, you can see a portion of the park and the railroad tracks on the right of the picture. And as I go through here, you see the path from the Cumberland Farms and the other properties nearby where people will walk down this path. I understand a lot of youth use the park as a gathering spot, and this is their preferred walkway right across the railroad tracks. You can see in the second image on the right, again, that there's no protection there whatsoever. This view also takes you from the park through the tracks to the back. You see a large utility box. This will be addressed by fencing covering it that you'll see in a moment. And here's a former wall that's kind of falling down. Finally, much of the pavement in this area is cracked and degraded, and again, all due to the poor drainage. Review of the scope of the project. I'm going through some of the main bullet points, not in as much detail as available in the full scope, but please let me know if there's any questions on a particular point. But the project will include complete reconstruction to improve the drainage in the area. It will bring the drainage down to rain gardens that we'll mention in a minute. It'll renovate and improve parking areas. Actually, 19 parking spaces will be repaved and resurfaced as part of this. And this is of the total of 45 spaces that are unaffected by the project. The same number of parking spaces will exist before and after. So it will not impact the parking that's available. It will just complement it. There'll be new walkways and curbing. There'll be ADA compliant parking and a sidewalk entry. There'll be new fencing in front of the railroad tracks that will improve the safety because we'll no longer have people trying to cross the tracks on that path. They'll walk around it on the normal front sidewalk as they should all along. In addition, the fencing will improve the aesthetics of the park and give it an area for potential artwork. There will be plantings, garden installations, new street trees, and rain gardens, as I mentioned, in strategic spots that will help to beautify what would normally be just a catch basin. There will be a pergola with new seating areas, a new seating wall, benches, and finally some new street lighting. Here are some of the design images worked on by the team that is currently working on the design of the project. From this view, you can see the beautiful plantings in the front corner. You also see the improvements, and we're talking about the parking spaces that are directly in front and opposite of 4 West Main, a section of parking just around it to the right and behind what you see as the pergola roof, and the parking spaces at the traffic island in the middle to the upper left in the picture. From this view, you're looking at more ground level, and you can see in the back the dark image, which is where the fencing would be placed. In this view, I'm showing you an example of sometimes when there's murals or local artwork that can be applied to the fencing area that would just add to the beauty of the new park. Here's another view near ground level, looking at it from the side of the new improved parking areas and from the side of the pergola. And I'm showing you an example in the lower right of what a rain garden might look like. Again, to just make the catch basins a lot more pleasing and encourage the growth of those plantings. In addition, here's a view of the new pergola that's proposed, new seating wall and benches, just making this into a really nice gathering spot. Again, encouraging the whole idea of more visitation, walkability, and the potential to enhance the area for visitors and businesses alike. This is a quick summary of the construction costs and the necessary contingencies and support and construction oversight that brings us to the total of $783,000. The more I thought about this project, I find it to be really comparable to the town common. Granted, that's a larger area, but in inflated dollars, the construction cost here is actually quite similar. And with this park, we don't have to buy the land. The town's already owned it. In fact, it's been deeded to the town since, I think, 1942 or something. So this has been on our list of something to improve for a very long time, and CPA is giving us the opportunity. So the committee and I are aware that not every board and committee is in support of this project. But consistent with our bylaw and with the precedent from all prior years of bringing you projects, the committee brings the proposals to you, the voters, to make the decision. Our committee voted unanimously, 8-0, to bring this forth, primarily because it's so affordable. We have the funds in our reserve account. That reserve account was supplemented by stake match and some interest income, nearly a third of it. It has some certain urgency, too, It's not that it needs to be done immediately, but that we've already invested a lot of time and money in the design of the project. Our select board had approved using ARPA funds, and there's a $280,000 budget already committed, the majority of which has been committed to the consulting group that's achieved up to 75% of the design to date. The funds are in place to cover the remaining design work that would kick the project off. So the important thing here is that we've got the resources to use it. This is a perfect use of CPA funds. It requires no use of our free cash and no additional borrowing, so the scope is greatly reduced from what was presented last year. The project is supported by your planning board, by the Parks and Recreation Commission, by the Open Space Committee, and by the Master Plan Implementation Committee. We also believe this complements and enhances the reuse and redevelopment that's proposed for 4 West Main Street. We think that by committing to enhance the park, rebuild the parking, granted not the entire lot, but nearly a third of the spaces and areas are being renovated. And in addition, we've made suggestions, including at the recent mock town meeting, where we brought forth to the select board that, this project can work in coordination with whatever the plans come forth for 4 West Main, which you'll hear about later in this town meeting. There's no reason why the timing cannot be coordinated so as not to interfere with a future developer's plans, and that many aspects of the two can work in concert. This also builds on our downtown revitalization plan. This is a major feature of our town's master plan for which many residents express support. It's a very small step, but it's one that we need to make because we're really not making any significant strides. The Master Plan Committee has invested 4 years. We have consultants' time that's been put into it. This would give us the first step toward that. Many of you as voters, you might not be even that passionate about downtown revitalization. But if you agree that it makes sense to make this a safer place and make it a more beautiful spot even just to drive by, then I hope that you'll agree it makes sense to use our resources and you'll vote yes on this with us. Thank you for listening. I really hope for your support. Please bring this forward.
Thank you. May I hear from the Select Board on Article 40, please?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. The Select Board voted 0 yes, 5 no votes on this article. The Select Board does not recommend approval of this article.
May I hear from Appropriations on 40, please?
The Appropriations Committee voted in the majority not to recommend this article.
And may I hear from Financial Planning?
Mr. Moderator, Financial Planning had a split vote on this Article 40.
Thank you. We apparently have questions. I'll start with microphone B, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Gib Chase, 6 Kimball Lane. A year ago, you brought this plan before the people, and the residents of Northborough last year voted this down. Not once, but twice in the same night we voted it down. And it's an unnecessary project. And we respectively asked the planning to put this on the shelf indefinitely and consider it at some later date. I certainly, I don't think this is an appropriate place for this type of recreation money being spent there. The railroad wasn't contacted. We didn't have that information last year. You did that after the fact. And they're not overly encouraging about having a recreational area against the tracks there. We are going to be resurfacing that entire parking lot. We still don't know what's going to happen to the town hall. And there are other buildings in the area that you heard from the owner last year. We're not quite sure what's happening there. I'm all for land conservation. I've spent 50 years in that field, among others. And but I would rather see a natural area being preserved. I would rather see agricultural land being preserved and a lot of other places that this money could be better spent. But for the reason that the voters have already voted this down, and you were asked not to really bring it back, it quite frankly shouldn't be. This is another one that shouldn't have been even put on the warrant article this year again. I would ask everybody in this room again to respect the vote that's already been taken on this and respect what the Select Board and Appropriations and Finance have indicated and recommended to us, and shelf this again until whenever. It may not be appropriate. I think there's better areas to use this money, but respect what the voters already told you last year. Otherwise, I don't know what we even bother come to these meetings for if the votes aren't even going to be respected and carried out.
Gib, with respect, could I comment on a few of your comments?
I can't hear you.
Could I offer a comment back on a couple of your comments?
Yeah, sure.
For the record, we, the CPC, did not bring this project forward last year. It's true that a project was brought to the warrant in 2025 for revitalization in the Blake Street area. The scope was different. It was more expensive, number one, and it asked the town to either use borrowing or ultimately, in the second vote, as you mentioned, use our free cash. The CPC was not consulted on the project. Let me put that a different way. The CPC was not asked to see the project as qualifying for CPA and to use its revenues and reserves for it last year. So this year it was, when the project came back in a much reduced scope. The town planner spent countless hours looking for a way to make it more affordable where it would fit within the CPA scope and reserves, which it does. In addition, we did get the Complete Streets grant that was shown as a bullet item that we might get in last year's town meeting. So that money has come, almost $500,000 from the state, and that's being used for more of the walkways and continuing onto the Pierce Street area. Okay, so we've got that sort of paving the way. You also mentioned the CSX Railroad. It's not accurate. We have contacted them. They do not object to the park being there because, frankly, the park has always been there. The railroad deeded the land to the town in 1942.
What do you call it a park? I don't recognize a park being on Blake Street. I'm sorry, in that area. That's not what I call it. It's a parking lot.
It's a park area, and it's considered a park by the town.
For cars. Listen, you know,
At any rate, I just wanted to correct you on that. The railroad does not have an objection, with the exception that they recommended the fencing, which improves the safety of the area, and they recommended the type of fencing so that it's not a split rail or a jump over fence. It's now more of a barrier, nonetheless, needs to be there. So I understand where you're coming from, and part of your objection is, I already voted this down, and you're probably going to vote no again. But this year, the reasons that I list here, I think are valid. This is a great use of CPA, and in addition, we have preserved many of the agricultural lands in town and continue to. The Open Space Committee is very active. There are many considerations going forward today, and we'll continue to save money in our conservation fund, and we may come back to you next year and say, hey, we've got another nice piece of land to preserve. Preserving open space was one of the primary reasons that we heard from voters why they approved it at the ballot in the first place. And it had been a significant use of CPA funds all through of its history. More recently, we've tried to concentrate on where we can improve recreational areas and also augment the schools, as we've done in many cases at the schoolyards, at Milliken Field lighting, at irrigation that was brought up before. And now we've got an opportunity to help downtown beautification, that the town is not going to do it on their own. There's no way that they'll carve out a space for free cash. If we can't approve a street sweeper, we're not going to approve some money for any kind of downtown beautification. So this is what the CPA is for. And we've accomplished so many similar things in town that I believe it's consistent.
What the CPA is for.
May I say, we have other people waiting to talk?
Hang on, though. He's addressed me.
Thank you for listening, by the way.
I appreciate the interaction, but I want to give other people the opportunity to talk.
Right. I'm a former Conservation Commission member as well as a director here in town. And I've spent a lifetime in this area. It isn't just a question of funding. I don't care where the funding is.
Okay, I'm going to ask, that's it.
It's unnecessary.
No, the timer just went off.
And the voters need to be respected. And
Mr. Chase,
that's all.
the timer just went off.
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Over here.
Rick Lee, 30 Wiles Farm Road. I'm chair of the Master Plan Implementation Committee, or the MPIC as we become known. I'm speaking on behalf tonight of the MPIC. The Master Plan Implementation Committee was established by the Select Board in 2021 after completion of the most recent town master plan in 2020. The role of the MPIC is to review the recommendations included in the master plan and to work with the different town boards and committees to see that recommendations in the plan are addressed as appropriate. During development of the master plan, public meetings were held to gather resident input related to the focus areas of the plan. More than any other area, residents expressed a desire to see the downtown area revitalized and made more attractive. As a result, the master plan includes numerous recommendations related to downtown improvement. Based on these recommendations, the MPIC proposed that a downtown revitalization plan be developed to provide a detailed approach to improving the downtown. The Select Board approved funding for the plan, and the plan was completed in 2024. Putting the plan into action, the Select Board approved $250,000 in funding for an engineering plan for improvements to Blake and Pierce Street sidewalks, improvements to the War Memorial and public parking at the corner of Pierce and Hudson Street, drainage improvements on Blake Street, and revitalization of the Pocket Park at the corner of Blake and Main. This design is now largely complete. A complete streets grant from the State Department of Transportation in the amount of $467,000 was awarded in 2025 that will fund new sidewalks on Blake and Pierce Street and improvements to the Pierce Street War Memorial Park. Construction will begin this summer. The CPA proposed the CPA funding proposed in Article 40 will fund drainage improvements, the reconstruction of parking public spaces, revitalization of the Pocket Park on Blake Street. Combined, these actions will improve the appearance and walkability of Blake and Pierce Street and will set the stage for the successful reuse of 4 West Main Street and the fire station on Pierce Street and for the other opportunities on Blake Street that may present themselves. These improvements will demonstrate that Northborough citizenry cares about the downtown and is committed to its success. This demonstration that the downtown is worth our time and money should encourage private sectors to similarly invest in the downtown and begin to fill our vacant storefronts. The opportunity now exists to begin meaningful efforts towards downtown revitalization. The approved Complete Streets grant and the CPA funding proposed in Article 40 will fund the first step towards accomplishing improvements in the downtown that residents have long desired. The Master Plan Implementation Committee supports Article 40 and recommends its passage tonight. Personally, I feel we've waited long enough to do something downtown, and I say let's get started.
Over here, please.
Susie Sislicka, 8 Emerson Road. I'm on the Community Affairs Committee, and I'm not speaking on behalf of them, but I will speak as my experience on the Community Affairs Committee. All the committees that were listed in support, I was never asked. I am the only committee that holds events in this little pocket park. I was never asked anything about our opinion, my opinion, or what was going to happen to the tree. Never. If I had my speech from last year, I wish I could have recorded it and just played it. If I could have done that, I would have. Once again, I have followed people from meeting to meeting, and the only reason why I didn't speak at your meeting was because the presentation before the sweet Melican little ladies that gave their presentation at your meeting, they did such a great job, and I was so proud of them. But I waited to watch them, and they had waited for so long through this Blake Street presentation that I didn't want to speak because I was giving them respect, and I did not get to see that because I was picking up my daughter at dance. So first of all, I'm gonna go through, and then you can answer questions after. So the safety for the children, that pergola, I don't know if any of you guys have seen the Melican children that go downtown. I have 2 of them, so I can speak on behalf of them. They are not safe. We're going to do this all over again. That pergola is going to be having children hung from it. Like they are going to just hang from it like a monkey bar. They love monkey bars, and that's what they're going to do. And I speak with all seriousness. There was a child just hit in the CVS parking lot recently on a bike, like during a half day. This is what they do. They're on their phones. They're not paying attention. They do not need a safe place to play with a pergola downtown in that pocket park. They're already there. What happens if 4 West Main is sold and they don't want a pergola? There's no new parking. They're just going to tear it up. There were new sidewalks already put in. I want to know what the cost per square foot is, because $783 seems like a really large amount of money to be spent when we were just arguing over a leaking roof onto children for $3 million. Let me see. So the planning board, the MPIC, the recreation, open space, a lot of the people on those committees overlap. So I'm not surprised that they're all in support. The pergola in the parking lot. The CSXT objects to the right-of-way within 50 feet of its tracks. They have major safety concerns about putting a park for children or a park near a railroad track. I have a copy of the letter on my phone, and I wish I could put it up here so everyone could read it. That's what the letter says. I have the copy of the letter on my phone. They don't want the undue liability on their hands. I'm just going to let that sit there. We voted 145 to 67 no last year. Then there was a backroom deal where money was appropriated from one thing to another by one person, 2 people, and then we voted it down again.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
And the complete streets money can be reassigned to other areas.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
So my question was,
No,
what was
ma'am,
the cost
your
per
time
square
is
foot?
up.
And when were the sidewalks already
Can we
fixed
turn off
in the
that
area?
microphone?
It's 5 minutes per code.
It's not the way we explained. It's 3 minutes. Over here, please.
Jack Backstrand, 76 Cedar Hill Road. I had a 25-point discussion that I wanted to bring up, but in the interest of time, you just raised a very interesting point. I'd like to ask the town, you said we could do this at a later date. So if we approve the funds, could we put in there that they're not supposed to be spent until a decision or a final, whatever we end up doing with 4 West Main Street, we can then start this project at the same time. That would allow for collaboration between the town and hopefully the new buyer of 4 West Main Street. That being said, how can we add that to this article? And then we can approve it or disapprove it, but we could walk away from it.
I just want to respond by saying I didn't use the words "at a later date." I used the words that I believe I used the words "the timing can be coordinated."
Granted.
So fair enough. I believe it's fair to state, and we spoke about this among us and some board members at the Mocktown meeting, that there's an opportunity, certainly, to coordinate the timing. It could mean delaying certain parts of actual shovels in the ground.
How do we affect that?
You need to understand that if you vote yes, you're granting the money to the town. The same staff that would coordinate when to start an aspect shovel-ready at Blake Street is the same staff that would report to our select board. And so they have the ability to simply coordinate. Where are we with something about 4 West Main?
I don't want to leave it to chance. Is there a way to get this codified into the article itself that says nothing's to be done until a decision is made on 4 West Main Street? That's all I'm asking.
I personally can't answer the question yes or no. All I can
That's
tell.
why I put it up to the board.
Sure. I would tell you that.
Whatever board.
Right. What you're voting on is to agree to authorization of CPA revenues and reserves to be used for the project. When that money is spent is up to the town, the planning director and the DPW director and our
I
select
understand what
board.
you're saying. My question is this: is there a way legally to add a line item to this that says no funding can be spent, no work can begin until a decision is made on 4 West Main Street. And I'll be honest with you, I was here last year, I voted against it twice. To me, in my mind, this is a field of dreams situation. If we build it, they will come. Baloney. We're staring down a 2.5-point override next year. We have to show fiscal constraint. That means spending money. This money may be there, fine, perfect. But you just don't spend it for the sake of because we can. I see this project as unnecessary. But if you tie it to 4 West Main Street, I would agree, let's pay for it, work with the new owner. I don't want to lease that thing. Work with a new owner, and we can, in conjunction, that'll show good collaboration between the town. So again, can somebody from the town answer the question?
If I may,
Can I answer?
I would have town council
Okay,
give
go
a response.
Okay.
Okay? Town council?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening. My name is Greg Corbo from KP Law Town Council. So the question is, which was sort of answered, that the role of town meeting is to appropriate the funds, but once those funds are appropriated, it's within the discretion of the executive branch to decide when and how to spend those funds within the appropriation. That being said, if there was a motion to amend to tie the spending of these funds to some future project, that would be a non-binding, advisory vote that, the town would then have to consider, but it would not be binding on them. They would still be able to spend the funds if they chose to.
Okay, who do I have to pay to have that done?
I think you need a pen and a piece of paper.
Okay. Okay, fine.
Okay. Mr. Moderator?
There's a form up here.
Can I explain about the timing, what the select board was thinking? So if we approve this project as is, what happens if the new owner, hopefully of 4 West Main, needs 15 parking spaces? Then it's a different project, right? And that's why I think that approving it for tonight is premature, because, like you said, we do not know what's going to happen with 4 West Main. And while I have the microphone, I will also say that the CSX recommendation concerned us. We found out that rain gardens require maintenance, which is more money. The murals on the fence will involve money to paint murals. The project is, we just hope that it would be more, a project with the new owners of 4 West Main. But the other problem also is that in the picture that you were shown, it doesn't show that the paving that will be part of the project is only a small part of Blake Street. So there's a whole other part that needs to be done, and therefore that needs to be coordinated with DPW. And if I'm saying anything incorrectly, please someone correct me.
Chairperson Hirsch, may I correct you only on one item? The total number of parking spaces can't change. You have 45 parking spaces. There is no space to put additional parking. So whether a 4 West Main occupant wants 15 of them or not, they would come from the parking spaces right in front or down the road. It's the same number of spaces. So this project does not affect the availability of parking. I just want to correct the record on that.
No, I think my point was that if the new owner requires 12 or 15, would they be responsible for the paving? And where would those parking spaces be?
Correct, but I cannot emphasize again that I feel like approval of the project in the mechanism that I've given gives the town the option to coordinate the enhancements to the park and the parking, those things that are good, and work it around should there be a 4 West Main developer that wants things a certain way at a certain time. The town would be in control of those timings. I don't think I'm speaking incorrectly. Lori Connors, our town planner.
I just wanted to clarify one point. By zoning, only one additional parking space can be accommodated if the entirety of the park were to be paved. And that's because we have in our zoning bylaws, and Mass DOT has jurisdiction over Route 20. So the combination of the Mass DOT requirements for Route 20, as well as our local zoning bylaws, it would only allow one additional parking space.
I am going to move on to the next question. Microphone B, please.
Millie Milton, 50 Fay Lane. Full disclosure, I'm also on Master Plan Implementation Committee and CPC and Planning Board. But I'm speaking as a resident, and there are a number of things in this town that we, as residents, can be really proud of. Our municipal services are great. Our education is great. We have people in our town who are invested and they want to see things better for our downtown. But one thing we don't have is a downtown. And, I feel like that we have many empty, vacant buildings, and those are generally owned by people who do not live in our town. They're not invested in our town. Thank you. I think it's clear to them that we haven't invested in our downtown, and so why would they? To attract and keep businesses and have a variety of options for friends, folks, and families to go to for enjoyment, we need to show them that we're willing to invest as well. As a business owner, I would be hesitant to look for opportunities in a downtown that doesn't invest in itself. If I didn't live in this town, I would not have looked to start a business here for the simple fact that there are 4 other towns around us that would be more desirable. All those towns have invested in improving the appeal of their downtown. Every day we're losing thousands of dollars in revenue to other towns that offer more. We're losing business opportunities, real estate tax revenue, not to mention a few budding towns that have everything we have to offer, plus a thriving downtown, all at a lower property tax rate. I imagine that there are some real estate opportunities that might be lost as well. And a few folks have mentioned hesitancy based on waiting for something to be done with 4 West Main Street, a building that has contributed nothing to our downtown and provided very little, if any, benefit for almost 40 years. The progress or the desire of the residents shouldn't hinge on one building. The improvements being proposed should be made regardless of the direction of that building. And how much longer should we continue to lose revenue and opportunities to surrounding towns? We have the funding. Without affecting our taxes, it's not taking from free cash. It's exactly what the CPA allows us to spend. This is the best opportunity that we've had in well over 15 years to put a stake in the ground and to start to build a downtown that residents have been asking for and one that we all can enjoy.
Microphone A, please.
John Wraith, Regal Avenue. I am a select board member, and I am the select board representative on the Master Plan Implementation Committee. I'm speaking as a resident. Thank you, John, for what you do. I appreciate it, and I really appreciate your passion and the way that you bring things, and thank you. I really do. And Millie, thank you for investing in the town. I know it doesn't sound very investable to you, but you're thriving, and I'm happy for you. But thank you, and it's a win for the town, and it's a win for you, and I'm happy for that. I'll be brief. There's only a couple things. The pictures do not represent what's going to look like, and that was a select board conversation, and that's clear, and it's really frustrating in the process for that to be characterized that way. It actually, I don't think it's fair. The payment's not going to look like that. CVS doesn't look like that. CSX isn't supportive. I really don't like that, but that's not my major point. Let us do 4 West Main, and then let's figure it out. That's all I have.
Microphone B, please.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Howland, 20 School Street. I couldn't tell, but I fear that is the mature tree that is used for the holiday gathering being taken down in this proposal?
No, it's maintained.
Ah, well, that would be very lovely. I do say that the large pots of flowers, those kinds of things have made a lot of difference. And I think that the murals are a good investment for artists to just make it colorful and distract them. My neighbor Liam would have called it lipstick on a pig. But it's true, the buildings are not attractive. There's a real concern there, and that really can't be fixed easily. But, having the artistry just really does make it unique
That would be
until
nice.
things get better.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Microphone A, please.
Fran Backstrand, 76 Cedar Hill Road. Full disclosure, I will cancel out my husband's vote this evening. I think it can be done in conjunction with whatever happens to 4 West Main. I don't think they are mutually exclusive. Susie, I want to let you know, I see the middle school boys down there almost every day when they're out. They're very respectful. They seem to be a really nice group of boys. I don't know which ones are yours, but they are very nice. I've never seen any of them, though, at the Common hanging on the monkey bars known as the pergola next to the gas station, so I am not as fearful of that. But I do think that enhancing that area, in addition to the 45 parking spaces that belong to the town, at the Fatouche restaurant, and that open space is actually where their parking is supposed to be. Without a median strip and/or any type of barrier, you don't know that. Therefore, they are using the 45 parking spaces that are actually ours because they don't, otherwise you would just be parking your car in what looks like the middle of the road. So once we do this enhancement, and to Mr. Ray's point, the models are only as good as what we can afford to pay. I'm sure we could have some really good AI renditions of what it would actually look like, but that would just cost additional money. So the reality is I think that I've been hearing about downtown for like the last 20 years. We don't have one. If you want one, you have to invest in it, and I think that this pocket park and the sidewalks are a good addition. I walk down there every single day. I would enjoy sitting on something other than those sliding slates under a bad tree. One last thing, in case Lori didn't mention it, the trained people said that a 6-foot fence with no more than 2-inch holes and no trees overhanging that will interfere with the train is acceptable. So, thank you.
Do I have to wait, or? Mr. Moderator?
Yes, over there.
Thank you. Ryan Maines, Crestwood Drive. So a couple of thoughts. One, the parking spaces, I believe there's only a subset of parking spots that would be refinished as part of this project, correct? So there's still going to be another entire section of the parking lot that is in its current condition. Is that correct?
It's correct. The project, the CPA portion, does not address the entire paving of the entire parking lot. There's not enough funds for that. So it concentrates on the spots around the pocket park and in the center island. In total, it would repave 19 of the parking surfaces, but not the entire Midland over to what you just mentioned, the Fatouche restaurant and so on, just to be clear. So it's certainly not all of them, but just a portion.
Gotcha. And then kind of the next point about us wanting to develop a downtown. In that area, we have Cumberland Farms, a CVS, a liquor store, a convenience store. I guess, why would we focus in that specific area and not move a little bit further down the road or someplace else where we could actually have businesses that are more conducive to foot traffic? By definition, if you're going to the gas station, most times you're driving your car there, getting gas and leaving. It's not like there's a draw. So just a thought there. Next thought, based on the park that you did, I think it does make sense. And by that, I mean the baseball and softball fields. Maybe we should look to conserve some of this cash. We're going to need it in the future. I think that's a better use than trying to turn essentially a small strip of dirt by the railroad tracks into something that it's really never going to be. And then lastly, I have a small daughter. I think it's a terrible idea to set the precedent to our children that they should go play by the railroad tracks. So I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you. And I do appreciate all the work you do, so thank you.
Thanks for your comments.
Microphone A.
Yeah, Jeff Amberson, 260 Green Street. First, John, thank you. I've seen you do this for, what, about 15 years now?
Longer.
Longer. Well, you've aged well. This project, I think we all support, beautifying downtown. I think it makes a lot of sense, and, what's the logical progression here? I will admit, when I think of taking my grandkids to the park, I don't think of taking them to Blake Street. So I have a hard time thinking of it as a park. That said, we don't know what's going to happen to the old town hall. And I kind of feel like we're getting the cart before the horse here. We ought to know what's going to happen there, how it may or may not affect this project. I tend to equate a little bit to, if I'm not going to landscape around my house if I plan on putting an addition on or changing something with the house. I'm going to figure out what I'm doing with the main structure, and then I'm going to landscape. And I look at this as basically as a landscaping project. The past night, we spent an awful lot of money, and I realize this is a different pocket that we're taking the money from. But, we used, I think, $1.2 million in free cash. We chose not to put any money into the stabilization fund, which is basically there for emergencies. We chose not to fund the OPEG, which, we're obligated to do. I have a hard time in my head justifying, I don't want to say planting flowers at Blake Street because that minimizes it, but of doing a project like this when we have all these other things in front of us, all these other obligations that, we can only kick down the road so far. And especially, when I look at the selling, hopefully, the old town hall, perhaps that could be a leverage point for us. Hey, what are you willing to chip in on this project? If we put the money up front right now, we've lost that leverage. And I think that's something that could be looked into in the negotiations. So, reluctantly, I'm going to vote against this. Thank you.
Over here.
Hi, Nicole Marr, 44 Weston Terrace. I agree with everything that he just said. I don't understand why we would landscape the area if we are planning on hopefully selling 4 West Main, if we could just ask whoever's purchasing it to clean up the area. Also, I have 2 Millikan students, and they absolutely hang out down by the railroad tracks. It is not safe to be down there. And why are we encouraging the kids to go hang out by Cumbies by putting benches there? That doesn't make sense to me. I also have a younger child, and I would never think, oh, let's go and hang out on Blake Street. There are so many other better places in town. I'm all for beautifying downtown, but this just doesn't make sense. Did you talk to the chief of police about the safety of this area?
I did not personally, and one of the main features that we're trying to promote is that we're making it safer. The reason that they're playing on the track, so to speak, is that it's free to cross them right now. So the fencing to eliminate the possibility of crossing the tracks directly from another store to the middle of Blake Street is one of the benefits of the project. We're trying to define not only don't cross the tracks there, use the sidewalks, but to define the use of the area. And many comments have been they don't see the point of it or the use of it. We have so little areas to park and visit a business downtown that this is part of the goal of making that a centerpiece of what can become a center of visitation and commerce and so on. So I appreciate your comments. I don't think they should play on the tracks either. I just feel like if we stick a fence up there, they can't get through it. It's too tall to climb over. We made it a different fence compared to just a low post fence that it was going to be. It was going to be mainly decorative, and the town planner and the consultants actually worked with the railroad to say what would be acceptable to them. So the solid fencing, if you will, impenetrable by climbing over, reaching through, is what we've arrived at that's acceptable to them. Remember, they deeded the land to the town. It's always been a park in town. So it's not that they object to a park being there, because it's kind of already there. Making it more beautiful and safer and eliminating the structural problems with it is what this is about.
Thank you. To me, like putting it very simply, I don't know who is going to want to go and sit next to the railroad tracks. I just don't.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah.
Microphone A, please.
Norm Corbin, 35 Whitney Street. I have a few notes from some of the speakers. So I was on the Historical Commission for many, many years, and we constantly were applying for CPA funding. And in many cases, we weren't using it the following year. In some cases, it took 3 years for us to get it all our ducks in a row. So to address what John was saying earlier, we can vote for this tonight, put the money in the bank, know that it's there, work with the people who ever come up with for West Main Street. We don't have to activate this on July the 1st. And I've had a lot of experience, like I said, with the Historical Commission where projects get delayed. And in this case, I like that idea, because then we can see what's going to happen with 4 West Main. And another comment I want to make is, I'm not sure I like to use the word park, because it's envisioning things that it's never going to be. But right now, it is a gathering place for middle school students, and it's not safe. But putting up a fence, that's the right thing to do. So now I'll go with what I was going to originally say. I was on the Northborough Master Planning Committee, and as Rick Leaf mentioned earlier, it's all about downtown. The master plan was not supposed to be about downtown. There's a lot of issues just trying to beautify it. After that was completed, as Rick Leaf had mentioned, there were some other contracts to have people give us some good ideas. There was a lot of community involvement on how to envision downtown for the next 50 years. First step would be trying to improve Blake Street. Blake Street has a long history going back to the arrival of the railroad. In 1856, it was the center of commerce. You wouldn't know that now. It's quite dilapidated. I've lived in town for 41 years. I can walk to Blake Street in 5 minutes. The street is definitely becoming more of an eyesore every year. I feel there's some value in showing a potential buyer of 4 West Main that the town is committed to improving the adjoining property. This has got to be a good sell. I don't know what we have right now coming in the door for options, but I think we want to encourage someone for 4 West Main that we want to help them improve the property. I have no problem supporting this whatsoever. But what I would like tonight, I would like to see that all of the people in the community, all the members who have participated in the downtown improvement studies and complained about the drab-looking downtown, I want them to come tonight, I want them to vote together and vote yes for this project with me. Thank you.
Over here, B.
Bill Pierce, 367 Whitney Street. I am a member of the planning board, but I'm speaking on behalf as myself as a resident. I've heard a lot of people say, well, we should wait to see what happens with 4 West Main. My only comment to that is, if you're going to sell your house, you're going to paint and move everything before you go to sell it, not after. Now, you're not going to work with the new owner to repaint the house. You're going to beautify it before so that you can get a better price for it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Over here.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. Mike Bashorian. I spoke earlier, but not on this issue. You keep talking about 4 West Main Street, the old town hall. That building burned down in 1985. That's 41 years ago. And I don't know of anything good that's come of that place since. They had 2 restaurants. They were there for a few years and just left after a few years. There's almost nothing good has come out of that building. All right? And you keep talking about see what happens with Forest Smith. Nothing has happened there in about 40 years. All right? So why don't we go ahead and make our town look more beautiful? Someone says it looks more and more like an eyesore all the time. I couldn't agree anymore, and I see it every single day. There are people who drive on Route 20 every single day. A lot of people. What do they see? They see one of the most drab-looking town centers they've ever seen. And you want to talk about waiting for what the people who buy for West Main. When is that ever going to happen? So please, let's make our town look beautiful. Let's be proud of what we can look at in our town. This isn't taken from free cash or anything else. We have the money for it. Let's do this. And please, people, I don't know how long you've lived in this town, but 4 West Main Street has been drab forever. The people who buy, who are these people you keep dreaming about? Now, please, let's go say yes. Let's make this town look beautiful, be something we can be proud of, and something instead of something we're ashamed of to look at every single time we drive down there. Thank you very much.
Microphone A.
Yeah, Jack Backstranding, and I want to read I move to amend Article 40. I want to propose a non-binding resolution to Article 40, Downtown Blake Street Park Renovation Project. The proposal is that the work and expenditure of funds on this project does not start until a decision is made on the town-owned building located at 4 West Main Street. That's it.
Second. So there's a motion that has been made and seconded, okay? And this has been reviewed by town council, or should we do that now?
Oh, no, the guy said it's okay.
Okay.
My daughter's an attorney. I'm a finance guy.
If I could, you need that? I need a copy. Because we have a motion on the floor, the focus, as far as debate goes, is with the motion that was just made, okay? And that is the amendment. We need to take a minute just to prepare the slide for that, okay? So, we don't have any music to play, I'm sorry. Excuse me? I can't hear you. On the motion that's on the floor? Okay. I would like to put this up first before we have comments. Yes. Okay, this is not a vote yet. What this is the proposal that was made to modify or amend Article 40. And it says, I want to propose a non-binding resolution on Article 40, downtown Blake Street Park renovation. The proposal is that the work and expenditure of funds on this project does not start until a decision is made on the town-owned building located at 4 West Main Street. I will let the person who did the amendment, is he here? Could you come down here and explain a little bit about it, briefly explain a little bit about what this is all about? You have to come down here. John, could you let him, oh, he can use that microphone. No,
Right here, sir.
you can use the one in the front.
You have the floor.
Face everyone.
So this is very simple. All I'm asking is vote yes, vote no. If you vote yes, then this proposal kicks in, which says you got the funds, but you can't do anything with it until we make a decision on 4 West Main Street. And to the gentleman who was saying 40 years, there hasn't been anything there, we've got 2 RFPs that have been put out and returned on the 4 West Main Street project. It's very, very early in going, but there already are 2 out there. So things are moving in the right direction. I think the town wanted to just get White Cliffs behind us. But anyway, that's all I care.
I just wanted to say, I agree with your amendment.
Oh, great.
Okay, it has been requested by the Select Board that they comment on this as a body. Yes.
So I really appreciate the intent of that amendment, and I definitely understand the value of this project. We've just spent a lot of time negotiating White Cliffs, and my concern, if we do approve this with the timing that we've got before us, is that it's going to really impact our negotiating position. We do have 2 RFPs that were 2 responses that we are reviewing, and my fear is that this is going to leave a lot of uncertainty for us when we're trying to evaluate what the best alternative for the town is going to be. And similar to what the other folks had said about putting the cart before the horse and really understanding what that's going to look like, my preference, if we were to do this, would be to wait until we have a clear understanding of 4 West Main is going to look like. This feels like a TIF to me that we're approving that is going to impact our negotiating position. And I don't want to have that on the table. I'd rather evaluate the proposals for what they are right now without adding any other complication to it.
And just to add on to that, the town is in the best negotiating position with a no. Will allow us to negotiate the 4 West Main on its own accord without creating more complexity to the deal. These are hard to do, and a yes makes it harder to do. So our ask is for a no, so we can act, so we can do what's in the best interest of the town and bring it back to the town.
Is that the end of your comments? Okay, thank you. Any questions or concerns have to deal with the amendment, not the original Article 40. I'll go to A.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mitch Cohen, 12 Whitney Street. I was going to speak on the main article, but this was one of the comments I was going to make. This puts you in a great position to negotiate. It says, we care about downtown. You're going to get the best bang for your buck, the best proposals back, the best negotiation by you say, we love our downtown. That's the way to get this done. It produces a design document that says, this is what we want to have in downtown. And you can go to them and say, hey, we've already invested $250,000 into the design of this from ARPA funds, federal money, not a single tax dollar. Great. How about you pitch in say for half the cost or a quarter of the cost. The reality is they probably won't. They put in a proposal on that parcel. This is a different parcel. They probably didn't look at it. But ask them. But you've got something specific to go with. And you got something specific to say, we care about this place. It's a great position. You can't get any more parking here. If you need 15 spaces, great. You already got 75. This is a good amendment from the people that don't want to do this for the people that don't want to do this already until you have a place in there. You're going to do this anyway. But this provides a level of comfort to this body that you're not going to allow the town administrator to sign the contract documents. She works for you. You just direct her. Don't sign the contract documents until we say yes, until we've awarded 4 West Main, and then they both get started. Thank you.
Microphone B, please.
Scott Paretsky, 47 Indian Meadow Drive. This is not a good amendment because it will only add to the uncertainty and confusion. I'd like legal counsel to weigh in on what is a decision. Seems very wide open. What is a decision? We're going to make the bathrooms public? I mean, what is a decision on the town-owned building?
Thank you. 30 minutes, moderator, to the speaker. This is a non-binding resolution, so it would be up to the select board to interpret that and decide when the quote-unquote decision has been made sufficient to proceed with the project. But as I said earlier, this is non-binding. They can go forward with this as soon as the money is appropriated if they want, or they can wait and decide when, they believe that the decision has been made with respect to the other property.
Yeah, thank you for the explanation. I urge everyone to vote no on this.
Okay, microphone A.
Eric Martin, Weston Terrace. I've heard from a few people on this side, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but just for the record, are these two parcels related in any way?
No.
No. Okay, so there is nothing, so this is basically...
What they have in common is the town owns them both.
Yes, but this is just like Pierce Street, this is the present town hall, DPW building, fire station, police. So these two buildings are abutters. This is my neighbor.
That's correct.
And me.
Just a clarifying point, and I'm welcome to be corrected here. I do believe they are connected in the way that there's parking spaces and things that be considered upon sale, and they are connected in terms of what the town owns. So I do think they are connected when it comes to negotiating a sale.
It's respectfully, as far as through you, Mr. Moderator, as far as I understood, it's more that it's town parking, so it's like for use for everybody.
The fact they're all town-owned, they're all open to negotiation. So, and I'm not going to talk about specific negotiations, but if the town owns parking spaces and they own a building and they own this, all of that's open in terms of an RFP, what someone comes to us with. So the more we encumber this, the more confusing it gets. What I do like about this town meeting is the support we're getting for the investment in that area, which we can use in our conversations we want to invest there. It becomes the cart and the horse. It's like, do you want to figure out 4 West Main for the best interest of the town and then understand this piece of it, or do you want to do this piece of it and pretend that the colors we chose and things we did are going to attract the right buyer versus the buyer telling us what they want? From a negotiation perspective, we feel it's in our best interest to be able to keep our options open and see what the market comes to us. These deals are hard to do. White Cliffs was hard to do. These things are hard to do. So our ask is to make it easier to do.
Yep. I appreciate that. I respectfully disagree, but I mean, that's the great, yeah, absolutely, sir. I too have a middle schooler. I have I guess rising is the term now, right? He's going to be in high school. He's down there all the time. I do not like the rhetoric of, I know middle schoolers, therefore they're going to do X. I don't like that. They are very respectful. I do think that putting up a fence actually helps us with some things. The town sponsors a tree lighting, so I do have a hard time with that argument of, oh my goodness, how can we possibly put a park here? We encourage families to go there at night. I mean, that is kind of talking out of both sides. So I am in favor of this, and I'm sorry. I'm in favor of the park. I just wanted to make sure to clarify that these two things are not connected. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Microphone B, please.
Michael Shaka, 120 Maynard Street.
First off, I'd like to make sure that I'm clear that I'm speaking only to what's on the table here, because it seems that a lot of the speakers are going off track and talking about the prior amendment. I'd like to, first off, thank the Select Board for considering this motion, I think, very intelligently with the response and comments that you made, and I fully concur with those comments. This is a non-binding resolution. That makes it, if I'm correct, I'm not an attorney, I've seen a couple on TV, non-binding, it's a paper tiger. This is nothing. This is, as far as this motion is concerned, it has no relevance. The other point is oversight, and this is a question for legal counsel. My understanding is that, well, let me ask the question to the author of the motion. Who is supposed to have the oversight with regard to this motion? Is it, because initially I think it was said it was the Select Board? So the Select Board. Question for counsel then, this is CPA funding, which is, I believe, autonomous. So I don't believe that it's even possible for the Select Board to have oversight over the CPA. So I don't know, can you please provide clarification on that?
Could I help for one comment? The article grants the funding to the Northborough Planning Department. The Planning Department reports to the Select Board. I mean, it's coming to the town. It's not being given to the CPA or to the contractor directly. It's held and ultimately managed by our finance director.
So the planning board then could say, regardless of whatever's decided, they're going to choose not to exercise any of the elements?
I don't see that being practical at all. They have to report to their bosses.
So therefore, then it goes back to the question. I don't believe that there's oversight of the CPA funding from the Select Board, which makes this, again, even more of a paper tiger. I'm seeking the answer from counsel.
Does that warrant an answer? I don't think so either. Okay. No, council's not going to give an opinion on that.
Laurie Connors, Planning Director. All contracts are signed by the town administrator, who of course reports to the Select Board. So the intent wasn't, so this project is at 75% design. It's not even ready to go out to bid at this point, and it was not the intention to go out to bid until January. However, if there's an interest in further delay, then it would go out to bid when the selectmen said it was okay to go out to bid.
Okay, and just a question. I wasn't looking for comment from legal counsel. I was expecting that they provide an answer based on their knowledge of the bylaws. And if they don't know the answer, then I'm very concerned with our selection of counsel.
I am going to call the question because it feels like we're going in circles unless someone has a very, very strong and compelling argument against that. Okay? So what I'm doing is calling the question. Is this a strong and new information that you're supplying?
Well, yeah, on this.
Use the microphone. I can't hear you.
Susie Sislicka, 8 Emerson Road. I'm an attorney, and I've passed 3 bar exams. That's impressive. I don't practice. I will say this is a very confusing language, and I have an issue. I also do want to point out, I'm going to hold this because I'm afraid I'm going to drop it. We elect the Select Board. We come here, we might prepare, and we might do all the things thinking that we're preparing for this. They're in negotiations. They're doing the work, and they do the work for what they're doing for 4 West Main. And being on the zoning board, I know you prepare hours and hours for each meeting. So they're doing that for each meeting that they go to, and we don't appreciate that they do that. Finance does that, appropriations does that, and we come in for 2 nights and we'll disregard their opinions and we turn it over and we're like, oh, we don't want to listen to them, we don't want to listen to them. And now we're kind of doing that for 4 West Main, and we're not listening to their opinions, and we're just not listening. So if they're saying that we should say no to this because of the stuff that they can't quite tell us because it's not meant to be made public, even by other former select board members or whatnot, I think we should listen to them and vote no on this because of what they're telling us. And also, I'm trying to get the tree lighting moved with Lori. We're planting a new tree in a safer location. Thank you. And we're going to dedicate it because it's in honor of a fallen soldier, Neil Ellsworth, and I always like to mention him so that we can remember him anytime that we can, a former Vietnam soldier. So thank you.
Okay, to remind everyone, I called the question. It's time to vote, okay? To remind you what we're voting on, and please hold this until I finish. Article 40, this is an amendment. I want to propose a non-binding resolution to Article 40, Downtown Blake Street Park renovation. The proposal is that the work and expenditure of funds on this project does not start until a decision is made on the town-owned building located at 4 West Main Street. As was indicated earlier, yes, if this passes, and it's a majority requirement, if this passes, that means that the select board will have the oversight to be able to decide, make the decision as to, is this a decision, has a decision been made on 4 Blake Street, on 4 West Main Street, or not? Okay? No means that we don't have this non-binding resolution in place. Okay?
Mr. Marger?
You're confused.
Yes.
There's just confusion. I want to rate. There's confusion about what we're.
There's confusion at the select board level.
Okay. What is it?
What does a no vote mean? Does that mean that we're going?
Miss,
yes. Thank you.
Can I express the confusion?
Through you, Mr. Moderator. So there's going to be 2 votes. Okay, the first vote is whether or not you want to add this non-binding resolution to the current article. If you vote yes on this, then you're going to vote the original article, including this new language with the non-binding resolution. You could vote no, and then it would all go away. Or if you vote no on this, then the original article comes back up in the same way it was brought up at the beginning, with no non-binding resolution, and you can still vote yes or no on the underlying article. So there are 2 votes. First is, do you want to add this to the original motion that was on the floor? And then second, whether this gets added or not, do you want to approve the funding for the project?
Clear, thank you.
So confusion is gone? Okay, thank you. I read this earlier, so I'm not going to read it again, but the voting is now open.
Is this going to be a majority or 2/3?
It's a majority vote. Okay, the voting has slowed. We will close the voting in 3, 2, 1. It is now closed. The amendment does not pass. Now we're back to the original Article 40. There's been a motion to move the question on the original Article 40, and it's been seconded. Okay? those people that are still standing, are there comments that you're making on the original Article 40? The question has been moved, okay? So unfortunately, we won't be able to go down through that. I don't want you to stand and be frustrated by that. You have to vote to move the question, yes. Okay? You all set?
Is that a debatable motion?
No. The original. Yes. Okay. We're moving the question, and that's a majority vote. All those in favor of moving the question, please vote yes. Those opposed to moving the question, vote no. And the voting is open now. To move the question. Okay. What we are voting on is the original Article 40, and the discussion about that has been moved, the question has been moved to vote on whether we, go to the vote for Article 40 or we continue talking about Article 40. So yes means that we go back to the original Article 40 and vote on that, or no means that we continue talking about whether we're going to move the question and why we have or have not moved it. And I see the voting has slowed. So in 3, 2, 1, the voting is closed.
Point of order.
Now-
Point of order. I just want to say that I was standing before
can't-
this came forward.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear this now?
Quiet, please.
When I was standing in line to discuss 40, and I can understand we're going to move forward, I was there to speak. Somebody else came in and made a motion, and that motion took quite some time, and that took away my ability to speak on this. And I'm not happy about that. But if that's what the laws are saying, then I will sit down. But in the future, I don't think the way things have been running very well, because there are some important things that I may have had to say that weren't said. And letting somebody else come in and make a motion to change it.
The floor is saying that there's no point in what you're saying as far as it applying to where we are and what we're doing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're disappointed. Yes.
I'd like to make a point of order. I would request, and I'm not sure what the rules are, I understand the moderator has made a decision to find that motion in order, but I feel it would be more fair if somebody was to make a motion to move the question, if they would go to the microphone as opposed to calling it out from their seat.
No more. No more. Yes. We have to vote on Article 40. The question has been called. Okay? Yes. Not yet. Okay? Just to refresh your memory, Article 40, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $783,900 from the Community Preservation Fund to the Northborough Planning Department to pay costs associated with renovating a pocket park and 13 parking spaces at 0 Blake Street, including installation of an ADA, AB compliant sidewalks, parking spaces, lighting area, and a pergola, park furniture, landscaping, drainage facilities, and new parking lot surfacing, or make any other action relative thereto. We are about to open the voting. This is a majority vote, and the voting is now open. Okay, the voting has slowed. We will close the voting in 3, 2, 1. It is now closed.
Mr. Moderator, I move for a hand count. There's been a second.
Yeah, there's been a count. It doesn't do it. Yeah. Article 40 did not pass because it did not meet the majority vote. Article 40.
I moved for a hand count, and there was a second.
No, there's no need for a hand count. We had a count.
This is not a hand count.
It is the method that we have been using to vote. It's a valid
Our
method.
bylaws and town meeting time provide the option for a hand count. If you need it, I'll make a motion for a written ballot. I think a hand count would suffice.
Yeah. No.
I make a motion for a written ballot.
No.
There's been a second.
No, let's be realistic here as far as what's going on. Many of the people that voted on that article have left, thinking that their vote was. I'm not willing to go with the hand count or.
Can we hear from council as to how that's possibly legal, Mr. Moderator?
You can hear from council, but I can tell you what the council's going to say.
Great.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Moderator, under the Massachusetts general laws, the moderator decides all questions of order. The moderator has decided the question that he's not going to entertain another vote on this because a count has already been made.
Even though our bylaws provide for a written ballot and a hand count.
Through you, Mr. Moderator, I'm not going to have a debate with you. The general laws trump the bylaw.
Mr. Moderator?
Where is that coming from?
Oh, here.
Oh, okay.
I would like to move to reconsider Article 40 on the grounds that there was information that may not have been provided to the debate.
Mr. Moderator, point of order.
Who's using what microphone now? Okay.
I understand a motion for reconsideration can only be brought by a person who voted for the original, and I'm not sure this person did.
That is.
One at a time. You have a point of order.
Point of order. The gentleman speaking is incorrect. Town bylaws does not do that. That is Robert's Rules of Orders, which the town doesn't follow for reconsideration.
Okay.
And I can give you the document to prove that.
So to understand what you said is that we shouldn't reconsider, in your opinion.
We can reconsider, but it doesn't have to be made by the voters.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yes, yes.
I withdraw my point of order, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you.
May I invoke a right of reply because I was directly addressed concerning statements about my opinion on something? To correct, I did vote yes on the article.
I think we're just going in circles here, and, we can be here all night going in circles, or we can move on and try to make some progress.
A motion has been made and seconded, I believe.
And which motion are you referring to?
To reconsider Article 40.
We're going to be here a while. There is a motion on the floor to reconsider. Is there new information that you have?
Yes.
What information is that?
Well, I would like to mostly consider the information that responding to some statements that were made quite a while ago, that when the vote was made to no last year on a similar project, that meant the town was against the project. However, I believe that those were mostly concerns about the finances. This being a CPA article is different, and it seems that in general there is pretty wide support for the project, even though there's questions about some of the particulars of how the project is being presented, and whether this votes yes or no. I would like to just make it clear that it seems there is support for the project if there is a different way that the project could be presented in the future.
In my opinion, you have not presented any new information. That's information from a year ago. It's an information that you were telling us what happened this meeting earlier. That's not new information.
I would also like to, I was interested that there may be new information coming from other people who were waiting in line that wanted to speak that may have had new information.
No. We're not getting there. I'm sorry.
Fine. Another point of information that is new is that a member of the planning board who had voted no on the recommendation is in support of the project. That is me.
Thank you, Carter.
I'm sorry, but you aren't making any progress there. We're not going to go any further. Article 41, please.
Mr. Moderator, I have a motion to reconsider the prior article.
Why are we doing this?
Would you like me to present my information?
What are your grounds for reconsideration?
That these clickers that we vote on may have a failure in them. And I will describe the specifics.
No. No.
Yeah. So yesterday, there were a number of abstentions. We don't have an abstain button up there. We had the final vote yesterday, lost by one vote. I'm not motioning to reconsider that. I know we can't do that. But there were 3 abstentions. How do we know what's happening with the system today? It suddenly changed.
No, it hasn't. It's been investigated, and if there was a malfunction, it wasn't a malfunction. It was an error in how the clicker was used, and it's been the whole system's been reprogrammed, and that could not have happened today.
I think that's new information, given that we had such a close vote on this today.
It's not new information because it was discovered last night what the possibilities were. I already called Article 41. I'm sorry.
Good.
Mr. Campbell.
Okay, folks, hang with me. I move the town vote to appropriate the sum of $87,000 from Community Preservation Fund fiscal year 2027 estimated annual revenues for the purposes of reserving said amount in the Community Preservation Affordable Housing Reserve Fund.
Motion has been made and seconded.
Folks, just give me a quick minute. The bylaw requires, and the state legislation requires, we put at least 10% into each of our core categories, and affordable housing is by all means a core category. This year, we elected to put in the minimum 10% since we had allocated a lot of our revenues and reserves toward the previous articles that you just voted on. But it's the need for affordable housing is no less important than it's been in every year that I stand up here and advocate for it. There are thousands of families and individuals on the waiting list, and specifically from our housing authority, just the other day, there are still 88 families in Northborough waiting for a single-bedroom home. There are still 53 families in Northborough waiting for a 3-bedroom home. About 40 plus of those families are veterans or have veteran residents. We barely make a dent in affordable housing, but we need to keep trying. The Affordable Housing Reserve is a resource that we use in conjunction with whether we vote new revenue or other reserves, or we grant money to our Northborough Affordable Housing Corporation. But it has been successful in many respects in contributing to the properties that we did develop. Senior housing at Center Drive, apartments at 3739 Main Street, and on Boundary Street. And last year, thank you, the voters voted to approve a new building at Colonial Drive, the current housing development in Northborough. So please vote your support for putting this in the reserve account. Thank you.
Thank you. May I hear from the Select Board on Article 41, please?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, the Select Board voted 4 yes with 1 abstention on Article 41.
And may I hear from Appropriations, please?
Appropriations Committee voted unanimously to recommend this article.
Thank you. I see a question on microphone B.
Hi, Bilal Hamaidan, 15 Edmonds Way. First of all, I just want to say I support affordable housing. I think we're doing a great job with that. And thanks so much for the presentation. It's really late. We've all been staying, and round of applause for everyone staying up. I just got a text message. My daughter can't sleep. She wants me to say goodnight to her. So she's watching. I just wanted to say goodnight to her so she can get back to bed. And I'll be coming home soon.
Yes, please.
His daughter's adorable there. Kathy DeGraff, 23 Edmonds Way. I didn't feel strongly about the previous one, but I just do want to point out there is something going on with these clickers. We had some really weird numbers for at least one of the articles, and I think it is really important that we make sure that our system is working so that the votes are fair, and otherwise we're undermining our confidence in town meeting, which is, that's the basis, the reason we're all here. I wanted to ask, since the previous article did not pass, can we take some of that money and increase this number? Is that possible to do?
It is possible. It would need someone to make a motion.
Do you want me to write it down?
You would need to write it down.
Mr. Moderator, I have a question while we wait for that.
Okay, there you are.
If I may, through the moderator. Mr. Campbell, again, thanks for all your work. Isn't it true that unreserved money can be used for affordable housing?
Yes, as well as new revenue. So
right. So affordable housing reserve can be used for affordable housing. Unreserved money can be used for affordable housing, and new revenue can be used for affordable housing. Right. So in other words, the money that's not being spent on the other one could still be used for affordable housing, whether we say so today or not. Right.
Yes, the unreserved fund are those funds that we have yet to designate to any core category. So if they were proposed to be used for affordable housing, that would come before town meeting again.
Microphone B, please.
Charles Frankian, Howard Street.
They can't do that.
The question I have is, you said something about that 10% of your monies need to be put into this category? Given the vote on the last article, is $87,000 still 10%? And if it isn't, what would be the number?
The 10% number is based on the projected revenue for the coming fiscal year. So the projected revenue is $870,000. So we set the 10% benchmark earlier in our cycle, and therefore it qualifies. Just while we're on it, the previous article for the Historical Society building, that met the minimum and then some for the historical 10%. And the article for Milliken Ballfield restoration, that met the minimum for open space and recreation.
Yes.
Andy Clark, 493 Main Street. I am on the CPC committee. I don't want to ruin our town meeting or our faith in the institution. I don't know if we need to, as pointed out before, to amend this article, because any unreserved funds can be used. There is no immediate proposal that requires the funds for affordable housing. So shifting them over to there just allows less flexibility in the funding on what may come up next year. So just to give maximum flexibility, and I can say, because we're on the committee, that we take affordable housing as one of our #1 priorities here. We recognize it as an ongoing concern, and we see the work that Rick Leaf and the people in the affordable housing community do to try to build it. And so we take it very, very seriously. So just putting money in there wouldn't reduce it just reduces the flexibility on what might come up next year in proposals. And it certainly doesn't detract from our commitment to affordable housing in the CPC. So I just ask if we don't amend the article. Okay.
And let me explain the thought process behind that. Okay? The Article 41 had a specific amount. It had gone through the CPC process. CPC was recommending that amount.
Exactly.
Therefore, this body can't then say, well, wait a minute, we want to move this over. If the CPC decides and goes through the normal process, then that's a possibility. But we can't do that at this meeting.
That is excellent reasoning. Thank you. And thank you, John, for shepherding us through 20 years of town meeting and CPC involvement. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, John, you got your flowers.
Just a quick point, but thank you for raising the question. And just so everyone's clear, monies that are not expended at town meeting do automatically go back to the unreserved fund. So everything not approved just adds to the unreserved fund, which, as Andy stated eloquently, gives us flexibility for any of the core areas that we want to assign it to.
Okay, I'm going to ask the Select Board their recommendation on Article 41.
Mr. Moderator, on Article 41, the Select Board voted four yes and 1 abstention.
Okay, and Appropriations, Article 41.
Appropriations voted unanimously to recommend this article.
Thank you. I think we've had some discussion. Any other discussion about Article 41? Hearing none, this is what we're voting on. To see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $87,000 from Community Preservation Fund, fiscal year 2027, estimated annual revenues to the Community Preservation Affordable Housing Reserve Fund, or take any other action relative thereto. And the voting is open. Okay, the voting has slowed. We will be closing the voting in 3, 2, 1. It's now closed. And Article 41 passes by the required majority vote. Article 42.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to appropriate the sum of $132,980 from the Community Preservation Fund fiscal year 2027 estimated annual revenues to the Community Preservation Committee for the purpose of fiscal year 2027 debt service and expenses associated with the acquisition of the property at 167 Main Street.
Motion has been made and seconded.
All right, I bungled that completely, but this, what you're voting on is the 9th bond payment for the purchase of White Cliffs. This was authorized by the 2016 town meeting vote and afterwards the subsequent purchase of the property. But part of the article was that we would pay the bond from CPA revenues, and that's what's happened for the last 8 years prior to this. Each year, that amount is a portion of our new revenue, but it's been less than 25% of that. So it's been a good deal because we've gotten White Cliffs almost paid for while not really hamstringing the committee from any of the other projects that I promoted earlier in the presentation. So we're almost there. One more payment next year, and then we hand it off to the new owners.
Thank you. On Article 42, may I hear from the Select Board, please?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. The Select Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of Article 42.
And may I hear from Appropriations on 42, please?
Appropriations voted unanimously to approve this article.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, this is what we're voting on. To see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $132,980 from the Community Preservation Fund fiscal year 2027, estimated annual revenues to the Community Preservation Committee for fiscal year 2027, debt service and expenses associated with the acquisition of the property at 167 Main Street, White Cliffs, or take any other action thereto, relative thereto. Voting is open. And the voting has slowed. We will close the voting in 3, 2, 1, and the voting is closed. And Article 42 passes by meeting the requirement of majority vote. Article 43, Community Preservation Fund, Administrative Fund.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to appropriate the sum of $43,500 from the Community Preservation Fund fiscal year 2027 estimated annual revenues to the Northborough Community Preservation Committee for the purpose of expenses associated with the implementation of the Community Preservation Act, including but not limited to clerical assistance, office supplies, property surveys, appraisals, attorney's fees, and other professional services, recording fees, printing, and all other necessary and proper expenses for fiscal year 2027.
The motion has been made and seconded.
Okay, briefly, according to the law, we are able to allocate up to 5% of new revenue to the administrative fund, which we do use for appraisals and things like that in conjunction with evaluating a project. If we don't spend it, it goes back into the unreserved fund again. So thank you. That's all this is about. I do want to add one more comment. We have an open seat on the Community Preservation Committee. I'd like to add my commendation to Jeff Leland, who left our committee after this year. But if anyone's interested and wants to have this kind of fun, please come and join us. It actually really is a fun committee. So if you're interested, please bring it to the attention of the Town Planning Office for the appropriate paperwork. Thank you.
For Article 43, may I hear from the Select Board, please?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, the Select Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of Article 43.
And may I hear from Appropriations on 43?
Appropriations Committee was also unanimous to recommend this article.
Thank you. Microphone B, please.
Kelly Gannett, 69 Northgate Road. I would like to make a motion to adjourn at the conclusion of this vote. Thank you.
Right now, we haven't had a chance to vote on this article. I know, but you already made a motion, it's been seconded. I can't act on that until we finish the article that we're currently working on, okay? So keep in mind, as soon as this one goes through. Anything else? Okay, this is what you're voting on for Article 43. To see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $43,500 from the Community Preservation Fund fiscal year 2027, estimated annual revenues to the Northborough Community Preservation Committee for administrative and operating expenses associated with the implementation of the Community Preservation Act for fiscal year 2027, or take any other action relative thereto. The voting is open. Okay, the voting is slowed. We will close the voting in 3, 2, 1. The voting is closed. Article 43 passes by the required majority vote.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Do I have a motion? There's been a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, and it's been seconded. All those in favor, please don't use your clickers, raise your cards, okay? Those opposed? This meeting is adjourned until tomorrow at this location at 6 p.m. Thank you very much.